righty, let's get right into it, shall we? Greetings and salutations, everyone. My name is Andrew Kirchhoff, and welcome to our Friday night live stream for Week 2 of the 2024 fantasy football season. Today is officially the record-setting day 8, I think it's almost maybe 9 days consecutive of streaming. Either way, whichever the number ends up being, it is the record for most consecutive days streamed on this channel. For those of you who are here, welcome. Hope you guys are doing well. You are, of course, joining me in the history-making production of this live stream. Over the course of the next hour, I'm going to be answering as many fantasy football questions as possible. Of course, I know it's Friday night. Many of you have places to be, people to see, and as do I. So let's talk fantasy, and then once we're done, we're good to go. Over the course of today's episode, when I answer questions, please be sure to include your scoring format within your question. Whether it is a half PPR, full PPR, standard, all-encompassing context really does help in terms of getting more of a concise answer from me so that I'm not really confused as to what is going on. Hope you guys are doing well. Again, earlier today, I did drop this video, the Week 2 Hidden Gems. As you can see from the thumbnail of today's production, in regards to Mike Gesicki was very closely going to be on that video. But I thought to myself, if I put Mike Gesicki on a Hidden Gems video, the volume of Mike Gesicki questions I would have to endure over the course of the next coming days would be, ridiculous. But then again, I'm here and I'm suggesting there's a potential in which he could be a solid start this week. And we'll talk about that as we progress. But that's pretty much it. Outside of that, I'll probably go ahead and put together a couple Underdog pick'em slips at the end of today's episode, in which I also did in this video, but I'll probably put together a couple different ones for those of you interested. Outside of that, again, there are a couple questions already being sent in, whether it's the live chat or the super chat. Want to get to the super chats because those do take priority. Answer those, and then we'll be good to go. Thank you guys again for joining us on this Friday night, which again, many of you, I'm sure, are busy in the coming hours. And if you're not busy, then welcome and enjoy your stay. Let's get into this. Nathan Salazar sends in a question. Says, in a full PPR, would you trade Rashee Rice and James Conner for Kyren Williams and Jameson Williams? No, I wouldn't. Listen, okay, so here's the thing. Jameson Williams, yes, had an incredible week 1, but the value that he could have potentially for the remainder of the season, I don't know if it's a sustained one, especially once we get into games in which Sam Laporta and Amon-Ra St. Brown are going to be the primary number 1 and 2 target holders within this offense. So unless those two begin to fade away from this offense, I think Jameson Williams' overall weekly contributions are going to be, especially at the high level in which he produced in week 1, are going to be few and far between for the remainder of the season. So as it currently stands, I probably would end up keeping those two that you primarily have, Rashee Rice, Conner. I love Kyren Williams, don't get it twisted. That offensive line and all the injuries that have taken place to it are definitely concerning. They're pretty much in shambles, trying to re-put together an offensive line that has just been dismantled based on injuries. So for right now, I'd keep what you have there, Nathan. Thank you for the question and hope you're doing well. All right, Travis Knott sends in a question. Says, hello, start Daniel Dimes or Sam Darnold. Okay, so first and foremost, between those two players, I would start Danny Dimes. Now, I understand it sounds crazy, but the Washington Commanders matchup is incredible. I mentioned it earlier today in regards to this Hidden Gems video. Specifically, last season, the Washington Commanders were defeated in both games against the New York Giants. So in the their own division, the NFC East, they lost to the Giants twice last year. In those games, it was Tommy DeVito and Tyrod Taylor as the starting quarterbacks for the New York Giants. And they had a combined total of over 500 passing yards and 5 passing touchdowns and 0 interceptions thrown. So there is a pretty good hope that Danny Dimes, with rushing ability, with passing upside, should be able to find success within the matchup. I love Sam Darnold. I think that in terms of what people anticipate him to be as to what he will produce, he will be better this season. But when you play against the San Francisco 49ers defense, it's no joke. And I don't really want to subject my team to having to rely upon Sam Darnold in that kind of capacity. As for your follow-up question, start Conner or Brian Robinson Jr. in a full PPR. I'd rather play James Conner this week, taking on the LA Rams rather than Brian Robinson. Brian Robinson's always going to have the potential threat of Eckler. Additionally, always going to have the additional threat of Jaden Daniels digging into its overall workload, which even though both these guys have great matchups, I prefer to stick with Conner. He has less threats impending on his potential touchdown upside on a weekly basis. Thank you for the question, Travis. Appreciate it. All right, Marion Garcia sends in a question. Let me see if there was anything attached to it. There doesn't seem to be, so maybe you've typed in the live chat. If in fact you have, I will go ahead and try to lock that down. Marion Garcia says the following. Trade advice. In a full PPR 12-man team, I have Josh Allen, Alvin Kamara, Josh Jacobs, Lamb, Tank, McBride, T. Higgins, Ford. My bench consists of Rome Odunze, Brandon Cooks, Khalil Shakir, Jalen Brooks. Who the heck is? Don't know if that's somebody. Should I trade Rome and Ford for Terry McLaurin? I don't. Okay, here's the thing. Rome Odunze dealing with a knee injury. Based on the latest report that I read, especially going into this week, the expectation is that Rome Odunze would only have the start, assuming he can sustain the pain. It's kind of a pain management based on the report that I read. I don't know. I'm not a doctor. But as it stands, Rome Odunze is not healthy and won't be for a while. And if he if he plays this game, he'll probably make it worse, if I had to guess. That being said, going forward, I don't know if I trust Terry McLaurin enough in this circumstance to where I'm giving away your third best running back in the form of Jerome Ford. I feel like you should be able to get far more value in compensation for Jerome Ford, especially considering, again, Nick Chubb's timeline is not really known. And that's why I told many of you this offseason to invest in Jerome Ford, because we know that he is, he's proven last year and he's already gone ahead and proven this year that he is a fantasy prospect that is of value and can start every single week. So in your circumstance, I'm not too interested in that trade unless Terry McLaurin turns it around soon, which again, I don't know if that's going to be a, for sure possibility in comparison to what you're giving away. Thank you for the question, Marion. All right, let's see here. We had a couple more super chats sent in. Just want to address those really quickly before we move on. We had Adam Amar who sends in a question. Thank you, Adam. Adam says, in a half PPR 12-man league, I have Jalen Hurts, Justin Jefferson, Brandon Ayuk, Kyren Williams, Brian Robinson Jr., Mark Andrews, George Pickens, Jordan Mason, Zeke Eckler. What would you give up for Christian McCaffrey? Okay, so considering you have Jordan Mason and you're trying to go and get Christian McCaffrey, the only way that you can comfortably get Christian McCaffrey, I would assume, is if in fact you give back running back, some sort of running back commodity, right? In this circumstance, if I was you, I would not be trading away Kyren Williams for Christian McCaffrey. I'd feel comfortable giving away Brian Robinson Jr. if the team that you're trading with is interested in that. But you'd probably also need to compensate them with more, which, looking at your team, I don't know if they're going to be willing to take Brian Robinson Jr. and George Pickens for Christian McCaffrey, because I don't want you going out and trading Brian Robinson and Ayuk. I don't want you trading two of your starters for someone that is, potentially going to be on the injured reserve. And yes, you have Jordan Mason as like compensation in terms of filling in, but I don't want you to break your lineup just to ensure that you get Christian McCaffrey. It would be a matter of like that team is trying to sell hot and they're looking for running back compensation and are okay with guys of the caliber of Brian Robinson, which I would doubt to be the case. It might have to be a multiplayer trade, and it would maybe require Kyren, but you need to get more in exchange for it, because as of right now, McCaffrey's kind of trending in the direction of most likely being on the injured reserve, which by the sake of their, let me check this out. So based on their upcoming schedule, I just want to see, like, when's their bye week? So they have a week 9 bye. Again, considering they haven't played him and they've already deemed him out for 2 consecutive games, the San Francisco 49ers are going to be extremely, extremely cautious with Christian McCaffrey for the remainder of the season. So with that in context, on top of the fact that they are Super Bowl bound, that's where they're, that's the direction they're going in. So they're going to ensure that without a doubt he is healthy and ready to go. If they were not to put him on the injured reserve for this week and they were to do it in the following week, again, you're not going to get him back till week 7 potentially, and even then, we never know. So again, unless you're making a multiplayer trade and unless they're interested in the B tier players on your team, like the Brian Robinson, George Pickens of the world, Zeke's, it's going to be a tough trade to make overall, Adam. Thank you. Adam follows up and says, Ayuk for Hill, ? Kyren and Pickens for Hill and Pollard. I don't know if I'm objectively trading for Hill. I don't know if anything that I heard in today's press conference from Mike McDaniel gives me enough confidence to say objectively that, yes, I'm excited about trading for Tyreek Hill. Obviously, we haven't heard anything objectively negative in regards to, any retirement or anything like that from Tua. So as of right now, it's kind of buyer's risk / potential remorse if, in fact, we don't get, if we don't get the return of someone of the caliber of Tua to play quarterback for that team, or if they don't go out and potentially trade for a quarterback, or, and if he doesn't return, Tyreek Hill is going to be 13 points a week on average if we're lucky. honestly, with Skylar Thompson. So they're going to need to get a huge upgrade at quarterback. Otherwise, we're in a little bit of trouble there. Thank you, Adam. iShine101 says, Sup, Drew. In a full PPR, I need one flex. Tank Dell versus the Bears or Najee Harris versus Denver. Thanks. Okay, the full PPR typically leans me in the direction of playing Tank Dell, but it's not to say that Najee Harris is not a great play. He honestly is. The Denver matchup itself, in terms of stopping the run, they're not equipped in order to do so. Additionally, we know that Najee Harris, because of the influence of Arthur Smith as the OC, is probably going to give him the ball somewhere between 18 to 20 times in this upcoming game. I know that Jaylen Warren is getting more healthy as time progresses, but it's going to be the Najee Harris show going forward as of right now. Between the two of them, though, unless Najee Harris is guaranteed a rushing touchdown with the lack of receiving upside that he has, and of course the mobility of Justin Fields, the presence of Jaylen Warren, Cordero Patterson, it doesn't seem like receiving upsides within his overall workload. So let's say he runs for 70 yards and scores a rushing touchdown, 13 fantasy points. I think Dell is more capable within this given week to outscore that potential. Does he have the possibility of not? Sure, but Najee Harris also has the possibility of not finding the end zone himself. So I'll just lean towards Dell in this circumstance. Thank you, Aishan. Hope you're doing well. Let's see here. Speak Your Piece sends a question. Says, hey, Andrew, of course, with Tua going down and possibly being out for a few weeks, reportedly, do you think I should trade Hill for Chase? I don't have an issue with that. Again, yeah, listen, the uncertainty of the scenario in itself creates a lot of chaos because there are going to be people out there that are speculative to a fault and are going to make bold statements in regards to somebody else's future that they have no responsibility or no business even speaking on, right? That's why I'm very kind of neutral on the Tua situation. That's why I'm always saying, let's just wait and see. Because, again, there's nothing that tells me one way or the other how this is going to transpire. And I'm not going to be the one that's responsible for telling everyone that it's going this way when it may not. So I don't want to put you guys in a situation where you're trading away you're trading away Tyreeks or trading away Achane or trading for them unless you're willing to, accrue the risk and eat the damage if it all goes to shit. So in this scenario, trading away Tyreek Hill, that I don't have an issue with. Again, you're getting compensation of the level of Jamar Chase, which again is another first-round pick. Obviously, based on overall upside, it could be a slight downgrade, but that's again under the assumption that Tua is healthy, Burrow's healthy, etc. Overall, though, considering the compensation that you're getting, even if there was no injuries across the board, I would still entertain the conversation, and I don't mind the idea of getting Chase in your current circumstance. Now, as for your follow-up, you have Justin Jefferson as well as your wide receiver 2. Also for the flex, should I go with Adams or Godwin? Okay, they're both really good plays this week. Like, no joke, they're both really good plays. As the week has progressed, I've become far more inclined to play Godwin. Man, Godwin used to be one of my favorite players. And then that ACL hit, and then he kind of just wasn't the same. And then Brady went, and I thought, oh, okay, Baker should throw him the ball. Surely didn't happen as much. But in this circumstance, for this week, as we're getting closer and closer, as much as I want to play Adams, I think I might end up playing Godwin in that circumstance. Additionally, again, yeah, I don't mind the trade for Chase there. Jay New sends in a question. Said, in a half PPR scoring format, how's it going, Andrew? Is Mason a sure start with Debo also in my lineup? Yeah, absolutely. Without a doubt in my mind. Listen, Mason's overall workload of opportunity, 1 reception, sure, but 28 rushing attempts, pretty much guarantees that he is going to be a weekly start within the top 5-10 at the running back position, regardless of matchup. The fact of the matter is, whichever running back you put behind this offensive line within this scheme, within the offense that that is currently structured, is going to find success. You could literally pluck a guy like Zach Charbonnet, put him on this team, on the San Francisco 49ers, and I'd put him in the top 5 because all you need is a little bit of running back talent. And because of the scheme itself and the fact that this offensive line blocks so well, it just leads to open plays. You just need a little bit of talent, a little bit of shiftiness, and you're fine. So in this circumstance of your team, Jay, having Mason and Debo, I mean, honestly, I think you're pretty much guaranteeing that regardless of who scores a rushing touchdown, one of the two, you're going to get all of the value of the rushing touchdown upside that, of course, the San Francisco 49ers are always implied for. You got to remember, last season in 2023, the 49ers were tied for the most overall rushing touchdown amongst all teams in the National Football League. If I'm not mistaken, they had 27 in the regular season. So what is that? 27 divided by 17 games, 1.58. So 1.6 rushing touchdowns per game. So on a good week, 2 rushing touchdowns. If one goes to Debo and one goes to Mason, just like it did last week, of course you're going to benefit from both overall experiences. So yeah, I have no issue with that. Let's see here. Matt C. Video sends in a question. Says, Andrew, the GOAT, 10-team full PPR redraft. Should I trade Nico and Charbonnet for Ayuk and Mason? I already have Christian McCaffrey and Purdy, so go 49ers. Yeah. In this circumstance, I think it's probably in your best interest to get Mason. Yeah, it is. Now, you're going to have 4 49ers on your team. So is that risky? Yes, but you're only going to be starting 3 a week, and that is pretty much my peak capacity of players for a singular team that I ever want starting in a singular lineup, especially in a start 7 league where it's one quarterback, 1 tight end, 2 kickers. Who plays 2 kickers? 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, and a flex start 7. Wow, 2 kickers. Is anybody playing a 2 kicker league? Because I'm surprising myself. Anyway, in this circumstance, yes, I'll take that trade, Matt. Give me you can give me Mason rest of the season there. Thank you. Zeke Rodriguez sends in a question. Says full PPR, start 2, McLaurin, London, Demarcus Robinson, Brian Thomas Jr., or Worthy. As it currently stands, I feel really comfortable playing London and Worthy there. Again, the injury that was confirmed to send Marquise Hollywood Brown to the injured reserve for quite some time going forward just opens up more trust in the potential of Worthy being an every down player that is going to get more potential touches as he continues to learn. Now, if you're looking for the safety play is McLaurin and London, but I want the upside. I would lean in the direction of playing London alongside of Xavier Worthy this week against Cincinnati in a game in which they're favored to win, and typically as an offense, they're averaging 25 points per game against that team. So I'm pretty confident in the idea of running a Chiefs receiver this week. Now, as for your second question, here's Zeke. Zeke says, second question, in my second league is a full PPR, 1 wide receiver spot available between McLaurin, McConkey, and DeMarcus Robinson. Between those 3 options, at that point, I would default to playing Terry McLaurin. Thank you, Zeke. I appreciate it. And at that rate, I mean, at least you're being able to diversify to a point to where you're not going to get pinned down if McLaurin doesn't have the greatest week of all time. But if he does, then at least you got a piece of it. Okay, Brett Webster sends in a question. Thank you, Brett. Appreciate it. Says, in a full PPR, Charbonnet or Ford this week? Ooh, that's a really good one. I'm leaning towards Sharps. Okay, so you're leaning towards Sharps. Andrew himself is, man, you guys know how much I love Jerome Ford. Okay, let's think about this. Jerome Ford, going to get himself probably somewhere between 4 to potential 5 targets. Could get himself 3 to 4 receptions. That is pretty much a guarantee. Now, as for the potential of Charbonnet, I think he's within the realm of possibility in which he could accomplish that. As for matchups as a whole, honestly, Sharp might have the better of the 2. Do I want to trust Charbonnet? Who has more touchdown upside? Going against Jacksonville. I think it's... man, that one's tough. That's going to take me sheesh. Do I want to play Sharps over Ford? What do I have Ford ranked? Let me go find this right now. If I go check, because I don't evaluate Sharps and Kenneth Walker to have identical value. I think Kenneth Walker is a superior running back. So let me go. Where's my Patreon rankings? Can I find them, please? There it is, Patreon rankings. So there we go. Where the heck do I have? Okay, so if I go full PPR and I go to Kenneth Walker and I go to Ford, is he going to be outpacing him in terms of ranking? I think he might. I think it might be Sharps. It might change by the time I get later on into the week and I do a little bit of more research regarding Ford, but I think it might be Sharps as the play. Now, as for your second question, Rice and Evans, in a full PPR, I think you've got 2 really good plays that I would start in every single scenario. As it currently stands in a full PPR scoring format, though, I have Rice ahead of him. Now, going with Evans is not a bad idea, nor is it something that I would frown upon, considering I have them both ranked within my top 10 at the wide receiver position. So they're both automatic starts. You're just kind of in a scenario where pick your poison because you're so blessed with a good team. Thank you, Brett. Appreciate it. Michael Barton sends in a question. Michael, hope you're doing well. Thank you again. Start 2, Devin Singletary, Devontae Adams, DeMarcus Robinson, Scary Terry in a full PPR scoring format. Between the two of those teams, I think I'm feeling most comfortable probably running with Devontae Adams as the number one, and then between Singletary and Scary Terry, a lot of rhyming in that scenario. Let's go and let's see where I have them accordingly. So where's McLaurin? McLaurin's there. Is he ahead of Singletary? Yes. So McLaurin will be the number two in this circumstance. Thank you, Michael. As for your second question, also start two between Garrett Wilson, Wan'Dale Robinson, and Demarcus Robinson in a full PPR scoring format, assuming that is the actual format for the second question, Michael. I would go with Garrett Wilson number one and then Wan'Dale Robinson as the number two. Thank you again. Appreciate it, Michael. All right, moving on from Michael, we had Rob who sends in a question. Thank you, Rob. Rob says in a half PPR. Fair price for Jameson in a trade, question mark. He wants Laporta and Christian Kirk. Absolutely not. That is abhorrent behavior for Mark Andrews and Jameson. Oh, actually, wait. Now, he wants Laporta and Kirk for Mark Andrews and Jameson. I almost want to give Mark Andrews another week before we jump into this conversation. I think for right now, if it's me, I'm holding onto Laporta and Kirk. I think the idea of giving those two and getting Mark Andrews and Jameson, Mark Andrews' value could be cut from the knees, just take it straight to the shins with Isaiah likely. I don't think it's going to happen. I'm very optimistic on the Mark Andrews front rest of season, but in this scenario, I think I'd hold what you have. I think Christian Kirk certainly could be of more value in comparison going forward. Again, you go back to last season, Christian Kirk did not have a great week one, and then follow it up by averaging, in a half PPR, 12 points per game for the remainder of the season. So I think Laporta and Kirk are safe as of right now. You said no to the trade. Yeah, then you're good, Rob. Also hold or trade Dobbins as your RB4. You can probably hold because he's going to have another great week here against Carolina. Again, I mentioned it in the Hidden Gems video earlier today. The Carolina Panthers can't stop the run. They can't stop the run really like no other. And it's not even just like a phrase. It is legitimate fact that they cannot stop the run. So in this circumstance, you could probably try to sell him or you just hold on to him. And the fact of the matter is he's going to have another great week here. And looking at the Chargers' upcoming schedule, let me just go ahead and Chargers schedule. I know it gets a little bit difficult. They start taking on some pretty tough teams, at least the next 2 weeks after with Pittsburgh and then the Chiefs. But then after that, you get a couple, freebies against the Denver Broncos and the Arizona Cardinals. So again, you could sell them after this week. You can sell them now, or you could wait a couple weeks and see how it kind of all pans out. But again, as an RB4, he's got a lot of value. Maybe you want to hold on to him just to have the depth, just in case injuries take place. Again, the McCaffreys, the Kenneth Walkers, it's only just starting. That's just 1 week of damage. Just wait till players start to take multiple weeks of damage. And once that, the pain threshold gets high enough and all the injuries accrue, we're going to see a lot of players missing time. So you could hold it for that circumstance. Otherwise, you could end up shipping. I don't have an issue with it. Or hold, and again, let him build more value and then sell him even higher. Benny G sends in a question. Benny G from Australia. Benny, I hope you're doing well. Says, hi, Andrew. Name 5 wide receivers that will hit 50-plus yards in week 2. Okay. Okay, here we go. I like these kind of questions. All right. So, where's my rankings? So, 50-plus yards in week 2. All right, here we go. Here's the list. Cooper Kupp, bang. There's number 1. Amon-Ra St. Brown, bang. That's number 2. Let's go with, what are we doing? I'm actually curious. Hold on. Let me just look at the stats here. Yeah. CeeDee Lamb, number 3, bang. Again, these are pretty obvious. Those are my top, 3 of my top 4 receivers. And then it's a matter of where do I want to go from here? Do I want to go Jefferson? Do I want to go A.J. Brown, Rashee Rice, Debo, Jamar, Mike Evans, etc.? Out of the potential remaining options here, if I need 50 or more potential yards, I'll probably take A.J. Brown. And then 50 plus, is it receiving yards? What's this question again? It's just 50 plus yards. Very well. So it could be a cumulative volume. So Debo could be in the conversation, but assuming it's just receiving yards because they're wide receivers, the next best probable play in this scenario, I'll probably take Mike Evans there. So Kupp, St. Brown, Lamb, A.J. Brown, Mike Evans. All over 50 receiving yards. Thank you, Benny. Appreciate it. I'm assuming you're putting in a parlay. Best of luck. Jeff sends in a question. Jeff says, Rachaad White or Tank Dell in the flex full PPR? I'm very comfortable playing Rachaad White there. Again, the volume of receiving work he gets, every single week and continues to build. It seems like it's It's an automatic in a full PPR. On top of the fact that he gets the goal line production, I understand a lot of people are worried about Bucky Irving. Understand that Bucky Irving saw 6 of his 9 total rushing attempts when they were already up 16 to 20 potential points in that game. So, yeah, it's the Rachaad White show. Thank you. After Jeff, we have KB. KB, thank you very much. Says, cheers, Andrew. In a 12-team PPR format, with Barkley, JT, and Mason in the flex. Okay, really strong team. Okay. Tight end is McBride. Wide receivers are Nico Collins, Chris Godwin, and London. Should I consider trading an RB for a wide receiver upgrade? I don't think you need to. Again, I think Nico Collins, London should end up producing in the top 15 capacity. Godwin's had some really good matchups, and in a PPR is highly valuable if he continues to get a high workload of opportunity, similar to week 1. I mean, this week against Detroit should find himself a lot of success. So in your scenario, considering you have Barkley and JT, the idea of potentially trading for an RB, like you'd have to send away Mason to the Christian McCaffrey manager and ask for a running back in exchange. Now, if you would like to do that, you absolutely can, and you can find value in there. But outside of that, I'm not trying to trade away Barkley or JT in order to get anything else. Now, if you want to trade Mason and get a wide receiver in return, you certainly can because it's a PPR and you can play a wide receiver in the flex. So Mason's your trade piece. If you want to use him now, you move him to the Christian McCaffrey manager or somebody else who believes wholeheartedly that, McCaffrey is injury prone, etc. All those kind of narratives, whatever. Thank you, KB. Bearcat sends in the question, says, what's up, Andrew? Chargers or Seahawks? I'm W/W. I don't know what the W/W means. Am I crazy? Let's see your meaning. I got to look it up on Google. Weight by weight? No, I don't think that's what you meant. A world war? Nope, that's not what you meant either. What the fuck is WW? Bearcat. I don't know what that means. Are we talking about, waiver wire? I'm WW waiver wire? But it's W/W. I don't know what you're asking. Are you asking which defense to play this week? Is that what we're asking, Bearcat? Do me a favor, type in the live chat, and I'll be able to get to that. Defense between the two. Thank you. Okay, perfect. My apologies. I'm an idiot. Okay, so going into this week, in regards to defenses that I'm starting, let me look at my defensive rankings. Currently, I have the Seattle Seahawks at number 4 and the Chargers at number 5. They are both within the same tier, but based on their okay, so the 3 defenses within that singular tier are Seahawks, Chargers, and Colts. Assuming, of course, Jordan Love doesn't play. I don't even know how he has a questionable tag. That is unbelievable. Anyway, Seahawks or Chargers, between the two, I have the Seahawks 1 spot ahead, but considering they're in the same tier, it's really a toss-up. If you would like to play one over the other, you certainly can because of the tier rankings. But I do have the Seahawks ahead, mainly because, again, the week after, the Chargers have to play against the Pittsburgh Steelers, which, again, I'm not super excited about that. But the Seahawks next week play against the Dolphins, and they're not going to have Tua, so that's going to be pretty valuable. So I think it's probably the Seahawks going forward here. Thank you, Bearcat. I appreciate it again. After Bearcat's question, we had one that comes in from Billy Welsh, who says in the following 12-team full PPR, I need a running back and a flex out of Montgomery, Ford, Terry McLaurin, Worthy, Watson, Brian Thomas Jr. Okay, so first and foremost, with that question, in a full PPR scoring format, the way that I would probably build this is if you have Gibbs, I could justify the idea of playing Montgomery next to him. If you do not have Gibbs, Ford is that RB in a full PPR set done. As for the flex, it's between Worthy and it's between Montgomery, in my mind. I'm kind of risky. I feel like the potential of Worthy is up there, and I kind of want to take the risk and let the momentum ride. If you, based on the matchup, maybe you played against James Cook and Achane, and they both tore you up. Maybe you want to go for the upside with Worthy. Otherwise, I think the safest play of the bunch is maybe just running both those backs, Montgomery and Ford. Thank you, Billy. Dragon Slayer says, trade Mason and Michael Pittman Jr. for Christian McCaffrey. Interesting. Usually you wouldn't want to trade away Mason if you were going to get McCaffrey in exchange. Okay, so here's the thing. Let's say McCaffrey goes on the IR, not this week, but the following week, and then subsequently misses those 4 contests and doesn't return until, for example, week 7. So by the time you get to week 7, you will be without Mason and Pittman, who could have helped you got to a potential huge winning record. Maybe you're 5-2. Maybe you're 6-1 by then because of their overall efforts. Who knows? But from week 7 to 14, you got another 7 weeks to potentially make the playoffs. Typically, in a 12-team league, if 8 teams make the playoffs, you need 7 wins. 8 to guarantee a playoff spot. If you play in a 12-team league and only 6 make the playoffs, you at very least need 9 wins. Maybe 8 if you're lucky, but 9 is really the confirmation. If you don't start off hot because you trade away McCaffrey and he doesn't play in the coming weeks and you don't have Mason, you are pretty much leaving it up to the fantasy gods, which again, I don't mind doing that in some circumstances, but in your position, trading away Mason to bring in McCaffrey is so counterintuitive to the entire purpose of getting McCaffrey that it doesn't seem right to me as of right now. So I wouldn't be too interested in that kind of situation because again, if McCaffrey goes to that IR, you're kind of in just deep shit at that point. And you lost a wide receiver and a starting running back. All right, moving on. We had Adam Amar who follows up with another question. Adam says the following. Kyren Williams, Jordan Mason, Brian Robinson Jr., Eckler, Zeke. Okay, so there you go. You got 5 running backs. Should I trade Zeke for Corum? I don't think you need to. Look, here's the thing. Zeke is clearly the goal line back of the Cowboys. That very easily could end up meaning that Zeke could average 10 points a week for the remainder of the season and finish as a top 36 running back. It's not out of the realm of possibility. That's pretty much where we had him ranked, top 36, but at the lower end because, again, we know that Rico Dowdle, Zeke's age, all this kind of stuff are variables that could contribute to him maybe not meeting that potential. This being said, Corum is quite literally just a handcuff. He will not play until something happens to Kyren. At least that's what we witnessed in week 1. Despite the fact that he is number 2 on the depth chart, Ronnie Rivers played over him. So in this circumstance, I don't think you need to, unless you're just purely looking at the future and thinking, I'm never going to play Zeke. I don't care what kind of value he potentially has. I just want to ensure that I have my backups. Then at that point you can. But ultimately, I think I would probably just keep Zeke because I think that if he could have some big weeks here and get a little bit more receiving utilization, maybe he has a game where he falls in the end zone twice. It's not out of the realm of possibility. They're not going to play Cleveland every week. He could be of even greater value and could trade for even a bigger piece that could end up, supporting your team for the future. Also, is it worth picking up Ronnie Rivers instead? Probably not. I would assume that if in fact Kyren was to go down, Corum and Rivers would split a little bit until Corum was to finally win the job. But obviously, McVay doesn't trust him enough to get a single snap last week. So that's kind of very, actions speak louder than words in a lot of scenarios. And I think those actions definitely speak loud. As for your last question, any chance Pickens is a top 5 wide receiver this season? It's going to require Justin Fields to let the ball loose. Like I'm talking about let it rip, which is always, a possibility. He was able to do it last year with the Chicago Bears. But again, the different offensive coordinator may not make it as easy of an opportunity in that circumstance. Thank you, Adam. Ironic Fate says, Worthy or Diggs in a standard league? Between the two of them, I think I probably end up playing Diggs. I don't love the standard format. I just think that Diggs is probably the safer of the two. Both have touchdown upside. Worthy is more of the I can do it in one play. Diggs is more of the I'm going to get more touches. And because Jalen Johnson is covering Nico Collins, maybe I have another solid week here. I'm leaning towards Diggs very slightly, but I could justify the idea of playing Worthy. That's for sure. Stephen Drake sends in a question. Thank you, Stephen. Says, hey, Andrew. Half PPR. I need 2 between Ford, Mason, and Nico. Okay, very well. Between those 3 options this week, indoors, at home, it's probably Nico Collins and Mason. Those are the 2 that I'm leaning towards. As for your follow-up question, between the 2 of Charbonnet, Montgomery, and Ford. In a half PPR between those 3 options, I'd probably go Charbonnet and Montgomery. Thank you. Let's hear. Annabelle Garcia sends in a question. Thank you. Is A.J. Brown going to play Monday in 14? Okay, so that is a great question. So earlier today, he did pop up on the injury report, which again was something that I was surprised about. I was putting together the full injury report as of today, and I was like, why exactly is he popping up this late? But yeah, he popped up with a hamstring injury, limited practice on Friday. Not great. If you are a Devontae Smith manager, congratulations. We are trending in a even more positive direction. But I think he will play. And he's a tough son of a gun. I think he'll be fine. So in your scenario, probably have a backup option. Literally, like maybe go pick up Jahan Dotson. So if in fact he doesn't play, you have the alternative swap. Let's hear. Jeff sends in a question. Says, how about everyone give Andrew a like? Thank you. I appreciate that. Again, for those of you who are joining us, welcome. Hope you guys are doing well. Again, we're just answering questions on this beautiful Friday night. If you have any questions, include your scoring format. I'm answering some super chat questions, and I'll get to the live chat in a moment. But thank you, Jeff. Appreciate that. Ironic Fake says, better stash, Jalen Wright or Tyjae Spears? Tyjae Spears. We just know he's going to be guaranteed for touches. Don't really have to worry or wait on an injury to take place. All right, Yeet sends in a question. Thank you. Very generous of you. Says, standard scoring league. We got 3 points for 100 yards combined and 6 points for a touchdown. Very well. That's an interesting league. Who should I start? Ayuk, Tank, JMO? Okay, between the three of them, if you get 100, okay, so you get 3 points for 100 yards combined. So is that with multiple players contributing to those yardage counts? If that's the case, between the three of them, let me see here. Actually, let me scroll into these rankings. I actually also want to check, where's the 49ers practice report? I'm just kind of curious. Do I not have it on this? 49ers. Actually, I don't even have to check it there. I just need to check the Minnesota Vikings one, and it'll mirror it for me. Nothing there. Yeah, I mean, at this, between the three, Yeet, I probably end up playing Ayuk. That's number 1. Tank's number 2. JMO's number 3. Ayuk cares me. He's rusty. JMO is dealing with an ankle. Yeah. But he's the best matchup of the group. Yeah, I mean, you're not wrong. Between the three of them, Ayuk is definitely rusty. That is for sure. He even said it in a press conference earlier this week where he said that he didn't want to watch the film after the game because he knew it was going to be bad. And then he was like, yeah, it wasn't that bad. It wasn't great. But ultimately, he'll build upon it. If you're worried about playing him, I think Tank Dell is probably the best of the three. But otherwise, if it was my team, I'd probably roll Ayuk out there. Thank you. Ironic Face says, I paired JD5/Fields. Should I trade, hold, or drop? No, you're good. Those are fine. I don't have an issue with that at all. Jaden Daniels is your first sure start every week until otherwise noted. And Fields, of course, always has upside in the absence of, not having to play Jaden Daniels, injury, bye week, etc. related. Annabelle Garcia says, who can I replace him with? AJ Brown is out because Smith is already taken. Yeah, so yeah, the next alternative option in this scenario would absolutely be Jahan Dotson. Thank you. Okay, we scroll down. Let's see, where's the next question? Next question comes in from LOLG. She says, hey, Andrew, feels like my season is over. First time drafting at the 1.01. I went Christian McCaffrey, HN. I have Mason. I have Laporta, Neighbors. Traded for Waddle, Cooks, Goff, and Dortch. Full PPR. Okay, so as it currently stands, yes, you are being plugged in with a lot of injuries, but it is only week 2. The week 2 just only began. HN, Mason, they'll be good to go. Don't worry about them. Laporta, Neighbors were fine. Waddle, again, is gonna hurt a little bit, but you could end up moving out of that if you would like. Goff at quarterback, I don't love. That is for sure. Typically, again, I want a mobile quarterback as my number 1 so that I can get that rushing upside, especially if it's not a 6-point per passing touchdown league. But again, it's still early. There's a lot of time left. And there's going to be waivers that I promise you, just wait. Injuries are going to hit to other players. It's not that we want it to happen. It is just the nature of the game. Eventually, it's just going to happen. Players are going to get hurt. Non-contact, full contact, doesn't matter. Players will get injured. And when they do, you better be ready to strike on that waiver wire because it's going to be able to help your team, kind of flip this thing around despite all the injuries. Just keep positive. Again, it's early in the marathon. Just because your calf is cramping doesn't mean, you got to pull over to the side and give up and be like, all right, you know what? I'll do the marathon next year. No, just keep rolling. Keep rolling. All right, let's see here. W Mike, 1981, sends in a question. Thank you, W Mike. Says, 1 point per reception. I got to bench 1 out of Hall, Gibbs, Connor, Nico, Kupp, Devontae Smith. Okay, so of the group, I'm benching most likely Connor. Hall has to play, Gibbs has to play, Kupp has to play, Devontae Smith has to play, so does Nico Collins. James Conner's your bench. Again, it's a luxury to have great players of this capacity and at a volume of this capacity, especially when I have, the prior question, the guy's, telling me that his season's over. Consider yourself lucky, W Mike, but yeah, play your studs, Hall, Gibbs, Nico, Kupp, and Devontae. Thank you. Scrolling down, we had a Egile sends in a question. It says full PPR. Tight end is Ertz / Juwan Johnson. Okay, very well. Between the two of them, I think Foster Moreau is going to clear concussion protocol. So there's a chance that if in fact he does play, I'm not interested in playing Juwan Johnson. Quite honestly, considering Tanner Hudson is out for the Cincinnati Bengals, I'm going to begin to lean in this man's direction as my lower end, middle of the pack tight end 2. That is in fact Mike Gesicki of the Cincinnati Bengals. his only other tight end competition on the field is gone. T. Higgins is not going to play once again. They play against the Kansas City Chiefs, who technically gave up the most fantasy points in week 1 to opposing tight ends. I don't expect them to bracket double team Mike Gesicki, but they're certainly capable of accomplishing it. I think Mike Gesicki is probably your go-to in this scenario if you don't want to play Ertz. I don't like Juwan Johnson again because of Foster Moreau clearing concussion protocol most likely in playing. Foster played about 74% of the offensive snaps. Juwan Johnson only played 32%, which again, when you're not on the field as often, less opportunities are going to be implied for your upside. As for your follow-up question there, Egile, defense, Ravens/Seattle. Between the two of them, I'd like to play the Ravens. I know that next week, they're not a great overall potential play because I think the Ravens play against Dallas next week. Let me confirm this just so that I'm not losing my mind. Ravens schedule. So I'd like to keep them both on roster, yes. So the Ravens do, in fact, play the Cowboys in week 3. So if you can keep Seattle on roster and play them next week against the Dolphins, that would be preferred. But yes, I'll take the Ravens this week at home against, their home opener against the one and only Las Vegas Raiders. But yeah. And then your final question, Michael Pittman Jr. or J. Will? Between the two of them, I'd feel far more comfortable playing Michael Pittman Jr. over Jameson Williams. Thank you. Scrolling down the following questions. Okay, catching up. Fam First sends in a question. Says, flex Jameson over Metcalf? Probably not. I think I'd probably still keep Metcalf in this situation. I have Swift on the bench. Yeah, I'd probably still play Metcalf over Swift. The offensive line is a little bit banged up already for the Chicago Bears. Their fullback is injured and I think he's already designated as out. Like it's already not looking the greatest right now for the potential of someone like DeAndre Swift this week. So I'm probably passing on Swift. I play Metcalf there in this overall circumstance. All right, Glory, Man United 17 says, any chance you'd pick up Penix in a 1-quarterback redraft or keeper league, even if it means dropping Quorum, Singletary, JSN, Deontay Johnson, etc.? No, I wouldn't. Look, again, even if Penix was going to be in that offense, if you go watch the game, snap by snap like I did, it is evident that it's not a matter of Kirk Cousins. It's purely a matter of the weapons in the offensive line not being great in week 1. Now, if that's going to continue to persist, it doesn't matter whether you're Kirk Cousins or Michael Penix. If your offensive line cannot hold the opposing team, you are going to get cracked and you will be uncomfortable. And of course, because of that, you're always on edge in the pocket. So in this scenario, I wouldn't make that swap. If you have some sort of intuition, glory that leads you in that direction, so be it. You are the end all be all, general manager of your fantasy team. You make those calls and just let it roll. Let me go ahead and see what the heck is going on. After Fam First question, scrolling down after Glory. Thank you again. We had a question from Howard Jameson, who sends in the following. Says, in a half PPR, 12-man league, Nico, Demarcus Robinson, DeAndre Swift, Eckler, Deontay Johnson, Shaheed, Christian Watson, Lazard. I'm so cooked. Christian McCaffrey and Puka on my bench. Yeah, it's interesting. In my home league, there's also a team that has Puka and Christian McCaffrey out, and they're in shambles, and I get to play them this week. Thank you. I've captured a victory once again by playing the most injured team of the week. What a surprise. Andrew pulls out a victory there. Okay, so in your scenario, pretty simple. Yes, we have Nico Collins, and then we got everybody else. So in your scenario here, really, I mean, you're going to hope that Demarcus Robinson for the next couple weeks could hold value. Additionally, outside, like if I'm supposed to start 3 of these players, like it's probably Nico, Demarcus Robinson, and in a half PPR, I probably throw Lazard out there and I just hope for the best. Like legitimately, that's where you're at. Kind of hitting the waiver wire to fix your issues, which again, typically it does, and hopefully it will. Thank you, Howard. Let's see here. Havoc Anime sends in a question. It says, pick 3 in a full PPR format. We have David Montgomery, we have London, we have Mason, we have DJ Moore, Jameson Williams, Ford. Okay, very well. We got a lot of players potentially available here to our disposal. Down 30 points. I had Tyreek Hill, and they had Waddle and Achane. Also, okay, so first and foremost, let's get to this. 3 potential options, full PPR of the available. Jordan Mason's number 1, no questions asked. Number 2, I'm rolling with London there, And then number 3 in a full PPR, I'd probably roll with Ford. So Mason, London, Ford. Now, as for your follow-up question, Havoc Anime, Murray or Justin Fields? I'd like to play Kyler Murray this week at home against the Rams. Thank you. Buzz Ellis sends in a question. Just traded Achane for Christian McCaffrey. Win? Do you have Jordan Mason? If you don't, I am sick to my stomach. That's all I can say. I don't know what other context I have in this scenario, Buzz, but that's a risky one. Lucius. But again, if you're okay with the implied risk, shoot, why not? Lucius Varenis 44 says, just had a trade offered to me. I'm getting Rice/Kittle with me giving up Andrews and Dell. Okay, yeah, let's take it. Give me Rice and Kittle. That sounds good to me. Let's take that. Fantastic. Really, I'm actually really confident about that one. Rice is just so much better than Dell, and I think that the gap there is closed, or the gap is so wide between the two, especially in a full PPR format, that I don't really care what the gap is between Mark Andrews and Kittle. Kittle, whenever he's been healthy for full seasons, I'm talking about Kittle playing 15 or more games, he's always been a top 5 tight end. So he'll still be in that conversation in the group. So it's not like you're going from Mark Andrews to Pat Freiermuth. You're still getting Kittle. So yeah, that's no problem. Gio says, Nico illness, ? Thoughts on Olave this week? Nico illness, yes. But look, here's the thing. Jamar Chase had an illness last week. The whole thing is like, I don't know what the quote-unquote illness designation is. Does he have the runs? Is he got a stuffy nose? I have no clue, right? So it's got to be on the injury report because he went and saw one of the team doctors about it. So I don't know what the deal is. I can't technically, make an assumption on what exactly it revolves around. But yeah, if you're worried about it, you can just kind of pivot elsewhere. But Olave this week should be a fantastic play. Again, it's a pass-heavy script against the Dallas Cowboys because they should be losing this game the whole time. They should be. Thank you, Gio. Let's see here. Julian sends in a question. Oop, I lost Julian's question. Did I? Nope, I found it again. Julian, half PPR, Isaiah Likely or Gus Edwards? Yeah, I think that's a really good one, actually. Between the two of them, I'm probably going to play Isaiah Likely just to kind of roll with the momentum. I could see I respect, Julian, the balls to potentially roll Gus Edwards out there. I don't know if it's technically balls or if it's like some sort of inspiration to seek the potential there. But either way, I could see it. I respect it. Against Carolina, there's a chance that he could do some damage, but I think I'm rolling with the Isaiah Likely potential. As for your follow-up, Jacksonville defense or Colts, under the assumption that there's no Jordan Love out there and it's Malik Willis playing quarterback, I will take the Colts very happily. Football is Life sends it a question. Says full PPR, trade Pollard for Jamison Williams and Tank Dell? Yeah. I mean, if you've got the running back depth to be able to survive that, and let's say Pollard's your number 4 on roster, I'm willing to do so. Now, let's say if he's your number 3. If you need wide receiver help, I think this is a pretty good potential to upgrade wide receiver. And then as long as you've got a solid 4 that's going to be able to transition to being your RB3, I don't have an issue with this trade at all. But again, there's a lot of context that's needed, but in a bubble, I'm fine with it. Someone in the chat asked, should I buy low on Olave? Yeah, if you can buy him now before this upcoming week comes along, I think you should. Pred439 says, was offered, what is this? A-Rod? Okay, so Aaron Rodgers, and a 10th round next year for T-Law. Half point per completion. Okay, all right, very well. 12-team, 2-quarterback league. Josh Allen is my other quarterback. Okay, here's the thing. I don't know what the 10th round next year really means. I don't know if this is a keeper league. I don't know if this is a dynasty league. I don't know what the F this is. But, Pred, what I do know is I want no business with Aaron Rodgers. I'd rather have Trevor Lawrence. Please and thank you. Especially if you're trying to win this season. If you're trying to capture a championship this season, it's in your best interest to keep Trevor Lawrence. Now, once you get to a point where you're like, all right, I can ship it. It's a keeper league. I'm going to keep Josh Allen next year, and I'm going to start selling pieces for draft picks. Then you can go ahead and make that conversation happen. But until then, let's hold what we have. Alex Ruiz says, in a 10-team full PPR format, would you trade Rashee Rice or Nico Collins plus Ryan Robinson Jr.? Okay, very well. Hold up. Would you trade Rice for Nico Collins? In a full PPR, I think they could have very, very similar value rest of the season. That being said, Nico Collins, in my mind, does he have slightly better upside? That one's close. Let me check. Let's see here. What are we dealing with in terms of rest of season potential value? Let me look at their strength of schedules as it permits. Let's if I go here, let me see these schedules. Sorry, this might take a little bit. I just want to evaluate some things before I send it, per se. As it currently stands, shoot. Okay. If you had told me it was a half PPR, I would have told you it's Nico Collins and it's not really remotely close. Because of the full PPR, I'll take Rice there. As for your follow-up question, Brian Robinson Jr. for Marvin Harrison and Jordan Mason. If you don't have Christian McCaffrey, it is still an incredible steal. Marvin Harrison and Jordan Mason, I would take that in a heartbeat. If they just offered you Marvin Harrison for Brian Robinson Jr., I would take it in a heartbeat. But the fact that they decided to also give you Jordan Mason, that much sweeter, Alex Ruiz. Take the deal. Thank you. Let's see here. Moving on to the next question. We have Stone Draft 28. Thank you, Stone. Says, greeting, Andrew. 12-team full PPR. Dak, Brees, Ford, Evans, Debo, Pittman, McBride. Okay, pretty strong lineup to say the least in terms of the top side. Brees, Ford. Yeah, okay, so basically in the future, you might need an RB2, but ultimately right now, pretty stable across the board. As for your bench, Swift, okay, great, so you can let him build up. Palmer may not play this week. We'll have to wait and see what his injury looks like. Dowdle, okay, very well. McLaughlin and Bigsby, thoughts. RB2 is weak. I don't know if objectively it's weak. I think that there's a ticking time bomb on the potential of Jerome Ford, but this being said, listen, I said this in the preseason. I'll continue to reiterate this. Understand that this backfield could very easily, even in the return of Nick Chubb, be a two-headed monster. You got to remember that last season, even in week 1, where Nick Chubb was the primary number 1 running back, in week 1 of 2023, Jerome Ford still had 15 rushing attempts in that game. There is a possibility in which, of course, both Jerome Ford and Nick Chubb can coexist. So it's not to say that Ford is a weak RB2, it's that there is a potential that soon enough there will be touches taken away from him. They're not going to be in the receiving game. They will most likely be on that goal line experience, which again does impact. But for the receiving game, it's still going to exist. You have McLaughlin, Bigsby don't really care about. Dowdle's pretty solid in terms of potential, considering any time an injury could take place. But as it stands, yeah, RB2's the weakest of your roster, but it's nothing that scares me. In time, waivers are going to hit, people are going to get injured, and players will start to shift. I don't think there's anything that you need to be making moves on as of this current moment in time, because we are a long way from between now and the actual full speed, full integration, clear lead one, number 1 running back, Nick Chubb. We're a long ways from there. All right, let's see here. Dylan Matos, thank you very much, sends in a super chat, says, in a 10-team full PPR flex, Allen, Etienne, Singletary, very well, Hill, Collins, London, Parkinson. Bench consists of Amari, Kirk, Sharps, Bucky, Javonte, Mostert, and Njoku. League vetoed Singletary and Amari Cooper for Najee Harris and Higgins. Why? Why would they veto that? What's your Rex? Listen, here's the thing. First recommendation, always be the commissioner of your league, guys. Listen, you guys care about fantasy. There's a reason why the 400 of you who are in this live chat are watching. It's because you care about fantasy football. You want to win because you enjoy this. You love football and you love the experience. Probably be the commissioner of your league. That's number 1. So that stuff like that cannot exist. Again, unless there's collusion involved, that is a fair trade clear and away. Even if it was a lopsided trade, as long as there's no collusion, you got to be 100% confident that you are playing with players in your league who understand the value of players. And if they're getting taken advantage of, then you can advise them. But vetoing a trade of that matter is it's stupid. Anyway, in your circumstance, here are my potential recommendations. I think you've got a really strong bench. You're probably in the business of taking Charbonnet and going and finding the Kenneth Walker manager and trying to make a move there, rather than going after the Najee Harris, T. Higgins, even though, again, I think that's relatively fair across the board. So in your scenario, that's probably my number 1 recommendation. After that, again, we're trying to upgrade Singletary. That's for sure, and that's a given. But in a PPR, we can survive until a little bit later on. for right now, until you can trade Sharps, he's your RB2 most likely. But yeah, try to go find the Kenneth Walker manager and try to make a move there. Pred 439 says, forgot to mention it's a 6-point per passing touchdown league. Got it, Pred. Let me scroll back up and let me go ahead and get some context. So yeah, even in the 6-point per passing touchdown league, I don't understand. Let me actually just update the chat and let me see if Pred had anything to say in the live chat in regards to context. It doesn't seem like there's any additional context. So yeah, in this scenario, Pred, probably just keep it as is, especially if you're trying to win this year. I'd rather have Trevor Lawrence than Aaron Rodgers' overall efforts for my fantasy team. Tommy Vu sends in a question, says, sup, Andrew, in a full PPR, please choose two between Jerome Ford, Terry McLaurin, and Josh Jacobs this week. Thank you and have a great day. Thank you, Tommy. Hope you're doing well. Long time no see, Tommy. So of the available options you have here, I think it's probably safe to run with Jerome Ford and Josh Jacobs. I think it's probably safe between those two. I'd like to play Terry McLaurin in this circumstance. I have a feeling that every time that I bench a running back of Josh Jacobs' caliber because of matchup or because of quarterback instance, they somehow score like 15 points for no reason. So if I was to tell you to do, okay, so this is what I'm gonna tell you. Okay, ready? Play McLaurin. You get it? Understood? Thank you. All right. Jack Tubb sends in a question, says, I declined Herbert and Ridley for Godwin. You declined Herbert and Ridley. I want Godwin there. Out of those two positions, I'll take the Godwin rest of the season. Follow up, I had Tua and Cousins already. Very well. Should I try to reinitiate or wait to see what Cousins does in week 2? I feel the price is going to go up if I reinitiate. Yeah, if you try to reinitiate a deal of that capacity, you're obviously, it looks like I declined Herbert and Ridley for Godwin. Yeah, if they are trying to give you Herbert and Ridley because, again, you have a quarterback injury and they're asking for Godwin, you'd rather just keep Godwin and roll with Kirk Cousins and see what happens in future weeks. Again, it's going to be a matter of time until Cousins feels the comfort of the offense and starts to really function properly within it. It'll take a couple weeks, but we'll see. What does this say? Jaden Daniels over 1.5 rush/passing touchdowns. Yeah, if it's rush/passing, I'll take the higher on that. I don't have an issue with that at all. Let's see here. Chris Espinoza says trade Mason and Addison. Addison's on, he's injured and out this week, for Baker and Myers or Zeke. Superflex league, I had Tua and Herbert as my quarterbacks. My wide receivers are Kupp, Collins. My running backs are Hall and Bijan. Okay, so you're pretty set in that kind of scenario. Okay, so in a Superflex format, yes, I'm willing to make that trade. Mason and Addison for Baker and probably Zeke. I think I'm comfortable with that overall scenario because you need that second quarterback. Definitely. Thank you, Chris. Appreciate it. Dylan Matto says, starting Sharp this week, Rec on RB2 or Hill ROS. Starting Sharps this week, Rec on RB2. Are you asking for my recommendation on your RB2? I think that's what you're asking for. Yes, that would be my recommendation for this week as your RB2. As for rest of season, obviously it's not going to be a consistent option because Kenneth Walker will return from injury. And Hill rest of season, in terms of, again, it's a wait and see. You can try to trade him, but you're going to have to get very high upside equivalent value in exchange for him. Because if Tua is to return at any point, let's say 4 weeks from now, I'd like to have Hill on my team, and I would be really bummed out if I traded him away for a guy like Nico Collins. And Hill comes back and Tua comes back and they're going for 25 points a game like they usually do. Let's see here. We had a question that came in from Howard. Follow-up says, recommended you to someone in my league last year. He just texted saying he listened to me, to you cook me. Okay, yeah. Listen, I didn't cook you. There's no way there's no way I cooked you. Hold up. That's slanderous right there. Start Lazard over Deontay Johnson, Shaheed, and Watson. Yeah, I probably would. Deontay Johnson is a wait and see. Shaheed is very much, look, here's the thing. Shaheed, I don't know if he's going to be able to do damage on a weekly basis. Watson, I don't trust. Okay, so here's the thing. Deontay Johnson, wait and see. Christian Watson, backup quarterback. Lazard or Shaheed. If I'm looking at both of them, both have touchdown upside. One of them is a special teams player, and has the potential of even scoring in that circumstance, which is Shaheed. He can also be utilized within the running game, within the passing game, but I will default to Lazard because of, the idea that Garrett Wilson will probably have a tougher week this week in comparison to last, because he's going to have L'Jarius Sneed blanketing him the entire day. But apologies if the last time was me completely rinsing you. I don't think that was the case, but hey. G Smooth sends in a question. Let me see your G. G Smooth. G, there wasn't anything attached to your question. Do me a favor and type in the live chat. Be greatly appreciated. Xanthius Sutton says, question in the chat. All right, Xanthius, long time no see. Thank you for the super chat. Let's go ahead and see if I can find your question. I might not be able to because you may have sent it in a long time ago. Xanthia said, offered Nico/Henry for Achane. So someone is offering to give you Nico/Henry for Achane. They're going to give you both the players, or is it one or the other? Because if they're going to give you both for Achane, take both and be happy with, what you got. As for the follow-up, I have Monty, Pollard, Eckler, Chubb, Evans, Adams, AJ Brown. Yeah, okay, that's fine. I don't mind taking the deal there. That's actually pretty solid. Amongst all of the offers I've seen over the course of the last couple of days in terms of questions via the live streams or via Patreon, that looks like the best one. Luis Castilla says, in a 10-team full PPR, I have Jacobs, Harris, and Williams at my running back, and Kupp, Collins, Lamb, and Smith at wide receiver. Thinking of trading Devontae Smith for a running back, who can I get in return? Really, I think it depends, right? If you're playing in a full PPR, the value of Devontae Smith rest of season is pretty high up there. Like I'm thinking to myself, if I'm going to move him, I mean, you can't get James Cook anymore. I was telling people, 2 days ago, trade for James Cook, but it would have to be someone of the caliber of I was going to say ETN or Rashad White, but I don't even know if you're going to get those two. If this hamstring injury for AJ Brown is actually a legit one, you might be able to get far more for Smith than the idea of you can trade him for Aaron Jones, or you can trade him for James Conner, or you can trade him for David Montgomery. But do I want older running backs that are very much so touchdown dependent, or would I rather just have a stud wide receiver in a full PPR that is going to give me additional depth? That's the question. Which in your scenario, considering you have Jacobs, Harris, Williams, you need another running back. Which, again, I don't know if I want to trade for James Conner, but you could. You definitely could. If you get Trey Benson on your bench off of waivers or something, it could figure itself out. Hoodie sends in a question. Says, what exactly is this question, Hoodie? There it is. Would you trade London for Brian Robinson Jr. and Neighbors, or hold? If you need running back depth, I don't have an issue with it. Let's see. Your running backs are Breece Hall, McLaughlin, Walker. Also, Kupp and Garrett Wilson are my wide receivers. I have Brian Thomas Jr., Shakir, and Palmer. I'm 0-1 currently. Okay, so I'm assuming you have Kenneth Walker, but you don't have Charbonnet. And because of the lack of Charbonnet, you're beginning to think maybe you want to pivot, which in this scenario you could. I don't think you have to. I think Charbonnet is a 1 week fill-in, but in this scenario, if you're just hey, I just want to make sure I have a little bit more running back depth going forward just in case as well, then I don't mind the issue at all, Hoodie. Or Hood R. Hood Re. Either way, Hood Blaze. Thank you. Joshua Wilkins sends in a question. Thank you, Joshua. Should I panic with Burrow? It's been 1 week. Let's give me 2 more weeks. So let week 3 close out. Bengals schedule. Let's see here. So let the Bengals take on the Washington Commanders next week, and then the Carolina Panthers the week after that, and then 2 weeks after that, the New York Giants, and then we could talk about panicking. Until then, let's take it easy. I understand you drafted him to be a hopeful 20 points per week at quarterback. Again, they always start slow. Higgins being injured obviously wasn't, a part of the plan. But just give it a little bit of time. Give it until week 3, and then we can begin the panic. If, that goes terribly, which it won't. They're playing against Washington, for goodness sake. Again, if you're going to ever try to trade for T. Higgins, or sorry, not T. Higgins. If you're going to ever try to trade for Jamar Chase, you do it before that Washington game, because I can assure you he probably goes for 30. Anyway, moving on. G Smooth, there we go. We have your question. Says, would you start Zach Charbonnet as my flex over Ramondre Stevenson? Probably not. I think I probably play Ramondre there. Same matchup as a whole, with DK as my receiver. Should I trust Seattle that much? No, I think I'd probably rather play Ramondre Stevenson there. That's fine by me. I think that's my initial thought, so I'll just lean with that. Octavia sends in a question. Octavio says, tips on my team. I'm currently 0-1 in a 10-team full PPR format. I have Allen, Marvin Harrison, Waddle, Gibbs, Brees, Parkinson, DJ Moore, and my bench consists of Javonte Williams, Neighbors. Neighbors on the bench? Wait, hold on, wait. Oh, you played Waddle. Okay, very well. You have DJ Moore in your starting lineup instead of Neighbors. If Keenan Allen and Rome Odunze don't play, I'm okay with it. Otherwise, Neighbors probably got to start this week, Octavio. As for your team as a whole, in terms of how do we improve this thing? Look, again, you've got Gibbs and Breece Hall, so you're pretty much set there. And you got Josh Allen, and you have Marvin Harrison, and you have DJ Moore, Neighbors. Parkinson, obviously not the greatest tight end, but he'll make do for the next couple weeks. As time progresses, he's either going to be relevant or somebody else, perhaps somebody by the name of Mike Gesicki, is going to find themselves being the most relevant tight end potentially on the waivers. We'll have to wait and see. Maybe Jonnu Smith, who cares? But as of right now, I don't think I'm really making any moves. You've got really solid players at all of your positions except for tight end. And I don't know if I'm willing to go out and try to sell a piece yet. Again, with all the injuries, building up so early to try to get a tight end, I'll just kind of wait and just play the waiver game. Thank you. Okay, let me see here. Where are we at? Let's refresh this so I'm making sure I don't miss any of those super chats that came in accordingly. We took care of that. Okay. Michael Ortiz had just sent in a question, but there's anything attached to it. So let me see if Ortiz is in the chat. Ortiz. Michael Ortiz says the following. Pick 2 in a full PPR, Andrew. Neighbors, London, Amari Cooper, Tank Dell, Worthy, and Kirk. Sheesh. Okay, so of the available that you have, technically, if it was my team, I'm starting Neighbors and I'm starting London, and I have no remorse and I have no hesitation. Those are the 2 that I'm starting. I drafted them to be my studs, and I'm going to hope that, again, it's only week 2 that they're going to actually be my studs. Somebody asked J.K. Dobbins or Charbonnet in a half PPR. Sam, I'd probably take J.K. Dobbins there. I think it's relatively close, but Charbonnet just, I don't know if he has, the matchup isn't as glorious. Now, he does have PPR upside, but if it was a full PPR, I'd feel confident enough to throw him above him. But until then, in a half PPR, it's probably J.K. Dobbins. Thank you. David in the chat says, grabbed Mason off of waivers by dropping Aaron Rodgers last Monday before the Jets game. Beautiful. Also picked up Dobbins before the game week 1. Feeling like a genius. You should. That is fantastic. Again, okay, look, here's the thing. I wouldn't say that picking up Mason was genius work. I think Dobbins actually depends, right? If you play in a 12-team league, both those guys should have been rostered. Either way, congratulations, David. You're on your beautiful start to a hopefully very successful 2024 season. I'm not going to yuck your yum. Congratulations. We're looking good. Let's see here. Crispy in the chat says, hey, Andrew, hope you're doing well, brother. I am doing well. Thank you. Zach Charbonnet or Aaron Jones this week? I'd probably play Zach Charbonnet. I don't want to play Aaron Jones against the 49ers. I just don't know if I can trust Sam Darnold to just clutch it out. I don't think he can. It's going to make it tough. But maybe if he starts dumping it off to Aaron Jones consistently, he could have value there. But I think I'd rather just take the value of Charbonnet, evidently. Let's see here. Josh says, I accidentally cashed in on Mason by trading him for Dell before Christian McCaffrey news. Although he's low end, wide receiver 2, who could I flip him for wide receiver wise? I got Chase. Okay, so you cashed in on Mason by trading him for Dell. Okay. So are you asking who you could have theoretically gotten in exchange? Because I don't mind Dell, but yeah, obviously it doesn't really move the needle per se in that scenario. But yeah, I don't know what you're exactly asking in that scenario because the deal is done, right? Or unless you're trying to potentially trade out of Dell, which that's a different thing. Donald Smith says, why is Christian McCaffrey owners trade Jordan Mason? Why you, Christian McCaffrey owners, trade Jordan Mason and McCaffrey is hurt? Oh, okay. I get what you're saying. I was able to decipher it there. Kevin says, would you keep Aaron Rodgers or pick up Justin Fields off waivers? Lost Jordan Love. I'd pick up Justin Fields. Yeah, for sure. Justin Fields is the more upside, especially if you play in a 4-point per passing touchdown league. It's just an easier potential route there. Old J Running sends in a question. Old J, hope you're doing well. Thank you. Says, I have Aaron Jones and Jerome Ford with a bench that consists of Zach Moss and DeAndre Swift. Should I drop one in order to pick up Jonathan Brooks and stash him? FYI, you are the best. Thank you, Old J Running. So as it currently stands, of the 4 that you have, I'm not willing to drop any yet. So as it currently stands in this scenario, Zach Moss had an okay week 1. Could end up improving this upcoming week. He played almost all of the third downs, which again is very exciting. Swift has yet to produce, so again, you kind of have to hold on to him. And then eventually, I'm probably thinking if you don't have an IR spot in your league, which again, if you're not the commissioner of your league, guys, lock it the fuck in. Excuse the profanity, I have to let it rip. Every league's got to have at least one IR spot, if not two, in this current world. We're playing in the Stone Age if we don't have IR spots. Anyway, regardless, maybe you have a running back limit. I hate that as well. Anyway, moving on. Don't drop anybody. Keep it as such. Don't worry about Jonathan Brooks until a couple weeks from now. Thank you. Elseway sends in a question. Allen was a dud. I mean, listen, I would have put my life on the line that Allen wasn't going to be a dud. On that Thursday episode, yesterday's episode, in terms of quarterback rankings, I mentioned the last 5 games that Josh Allen had against the Miami Dolphins. All of them were over 25 fantasy points in a 4-point per passing touchdown league. And yet, the circumstance is a circumstance. It is what it is. As for your question, Elseway, sit/start. My lineup: Pacheco, Montgomery, Connor, Pittman Jr., Kirk, JSN, Demarcus Robinson. I have CD and Laporta, so they auto start. Yeah, okay. So if they auto start, and this is a 7-start league, 1 quarterback, 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, a tight end, and a flex, and it doesn't have 2 kickers. You get the joke. Allen was your quarterback. CD's your wide receiver 1. Your wide receiver 2 is Michael Pittman Jr. Your RB1 and RB2 are Pacheco and Connor. Your tight end is Laporta, and your flex is Montgomery. Thank you, Elseway. Young Money sends in a question. Young Money, oh look, I recognize your name. Welcome. Hope you're doing well, Young Money. PPR, Jordan Mason or Josh Jacobs? No questions asked. It's Jordan Mason this week. Packers run a lot with no love. They can run a lot, but you can bet your bottom dollar they're going to stack that box. I understand that many of you may look at the idea of like, hey, Joe Mixon just went for 30 rushing attempts and over 150 rushing yards and a touchdown against the Indianapolis Colts. Why wouldn't Josh Jacobs be capable of that? Because the reason why Mixon ran for so many yards is because, quite frankly, that defense has to account for, besides Joe Mixon, Stroud, Schultz, Nico Collins, Tank Dell, and Stephon Diggs. Without Jordan Love in the lineup, people don't really have to purely account for Dobbs, Watson, Reed, Jacobs, Tucker Kraft. Malik Willis cannot hit every part of the field. And because of it, they're going to stack the box and they're going to murder that offensive line by just stopping them from running the ball and forcing Malik Willis to have to beat him with their arm. So in this scenario, 1,000% I'm playing Jordan Mason. Thank you, Young Money. All right, let's see here. Amarmo, 27, says, PPR 12 team, Pittman and Flowers for Harrison and BTJ. So do I want to trade the potential that Harrison actually becomes a wide receiver 1 and a potential lower end wide receiver 3 in order to get 2 wide receiver 2s, or trading 2 wide receiver 2s for that potential? Interesting. This is quite an interesting turn of events. With no context whatsoever of what the rest of your team looks like, if I'm just looking at it, which of the 2 would I rather have? As of right now, I'd rather have the Pittman Flowers side. Thank you for your question. Appreciate it. Moving on to Step by Step, who sends in a question. Says, Andrew, I need 100% accuracy. Brother, there's no such thing. If I could guarantee accuracy, I wouldn't be live streaming. I'd be in Vegas. Anyway, let's see where your question is. I'm in a 10-man PPR league. Should I pick up Rashid Shaheed, Yoshi Voss, Judy, or Tyler Johnson? Thank you. Do you have to play one of these guys? If you have to play one of them, I'm picking up and I'm playing Judy. Thank you. Andrew Mitchell says, care to take a shot at Swift comp ROS? Not really. I mean, look, here's the thing. Khalil Herbert, Roschon Johnson, I don't even think he played a single snap on Sunday. I think Travis Homer played more than him. Let me actually cross-reference this, but I think that's what I saw based on what I was. Let's see here. Yeah. So Travis Homer played more than Khalil Herbert, and Roschon Johnson wasn't even active to get a single offensive snap in the game. So with that all taken into account, nope, not interested in the competition of that backfield the rest of season, Andrew. Thank you. Nels Santiago. Nels, hope you're doing well. Says, hey, bro. In a PPR, I need 1 from Metcalf, Charbonnet, and McConkey. Great. If I'm picking 1, I'm playing Charbonnet this week. Thank you. Let's see here. We had a question that came in from Edgar, who says, in a 12-team standard league, Goff, Christian McCaffrey, Hubbard, Evans, Wilson, DK Laporta, Brooks, McLaughlin, Bucky, Charbonnet, Bigsby, Neighbors, Worthy. What move should I make? Well, okay, so Christian McCaffrey's going to your IR. Therefore, your running backs are Chuba Hubbard, Jonathan Brooks, Jaleel McLaughlin, Bucky Irving, and Zach Charbonnet. So in your scenario, considering you don't have Mason, my suggestion to you, Edgar, is to trade for Jordan Mason. That is what you need to do. Obviously, you don't want to overpay for it, but evidently you need to trade for a running back, and Mason is the one that you probably want. Now, if you can't get a guy like Mason, then I'm going to suggest that you try to go trade for someone like Najee Harris, that in a standard league, again, could have value because you're not having to worry about that PPR upside that's being lost. So those are my two primary suggestions. As to what I'm giving up, again, you've got some great running, or you've got a lot of wide receiver depth on this bench. You've got Neighbors and Worthy that could move some needles in these scenarios. Thank you. Let's see here. Inderjit sends in a question, says, should I trade Pickens for Swift? My other wide receivers are Jefferson, Godwin, and DK. My running backs are Travis and Kamara. I don't have an issue with it. Listen, Swift is going to get better over time. That offense is going to improve because the quarterback will evidently improve. If he doesn't, then the Bears are cursed and it is what it is, and we'll just move on, depressed. But in this scenario, I don't mind it. I think you've got enough wide receiver depth to where you can survive. If you were in a league where you start 2 flexes every week instead of a 7 start where you only have 1 flex, I would say, yeah, you probably want to keep Pickens. But in this scenario, if it's a 1 flex, Swift is fine in order to build a little bit of RB depth and buy low. Mo Money says, who should I target in a trade full PPR? Burrow, Mayfield are my quarterbacks. Taylor, Kamara, Montgomery, Mason, and Eckler are my running backs. Lamb, Waddle, Puka, Deontay, and DeMarcus and Wanda Robinson. I have Hawkinson and Andrews. Listen, Mo Money, you take Mason and you go get whatever you want off that Christian McCaffrey team. If they have no interest in giving you that, at this point, you need wide receiver. That is what you need, and hopefully they'll be willing to give you one because you have Waddle and Puka. And with Puka on injury and Tua out with his injury, Waddle is really just not going to be that fun of a wide receiver to start. So, yeah, if I'm in your position here, I'm probably going and I'm moving Mason to get some wide receivers. If not that, I'm potentially going to the team that has Jordan Love, potentially offering Mayfield, trying to get wide receiver depth back. That could work as well. Let's see here. Anthony Rodriguez is in a 10-team full PPR. AJ, White, Daniels for Bijan, Puka, and Amari Cooper. Wait. AJ Brown, Rashad White, and Jaden Daniels for Bijan, Puka, and Amari Cooper. So in a vacuum, in a bubble, with no context, because I literally have no context to what the heck the rest of the team looks like. AJ White, Daniels, Bijan, Puka, Amari Cooper. As it currently stands, in a bubble, assuming we get a healthy Puka in return, no, I think I don't. Man. A healthy Puka makes this a one-sided deal, where the Bijan side, there's no question I take it. But because I don't know what the status of Puka is going to be even after the IR stint, it makes me a little bit worrisome to where I don't even want to touch the move. I might just want to keep the AJ White Daniels approach going forward. Andrew Mitchell said, sorry, comparison, not competition. Let me go back up here. So it says, care to take a shot at Swift comparison rest of season? Okay, so what does that even mean? Like, am I trying to find a comp for Swift in terms of fantasy value? Like, who is the Swift? Like, who has very similar value to Swift in the rest of season? Yeah, Anthony Rodriguez, that is a tough trade. If Puka if I could get 100% guarantee that Puka comes back in 4 weeks and he's healthy, so basically after their bye week in week 5 or 6, so whether they return in week 6 or 7, if I can get a guarantee that he's going to be there at a full capacity, no questions asked, I'd be happy. But until then, considering there's so much risk involved, I might just stick with what you originally have on roster. Let's see here. Jack Tupp says, start to Boswell, Santos, Lutz. If you're this is a multiple kicker league, huh? Between the bunch here, I probably end up okay, I don't know what the weather looks like. I know that Santos plays indoors. I know that Boswell plays in Denver. Hopefully it's not going to be an issue, and so does Lutz. So, assuming the weather in Denver is okay, And then additionally, assuming that Keenan Allen and or Rome Odunze play, because if both of them are out, I'm not touching Santos. If one of the two are in, I will play Santos alongside of Boswell. Otherwise, you drop Santos and play Lutz and Boswell. Thank you. Robert sends in a question, says, in a half PPR deep league, I'm down Kenneth Walker and have to play Eckler in my flex. Is it worth trading Laporta for depth? And who do you expect to get in return? Okay, so here's the thing. Kenneth Walker is only going to miss maybe 1 week, maybe 2 weeks if we're unlucky. Okay? After that, you'll be fine. So if you're going to be breaking off Laporta, the question is, what do you have as your backup tight end to fill in for Laporta? And then subsequently, if you don't have anything, you're going to need a tight end in return. So you're going to have to ask for a Mark Andrews, George Kittle, Evan Ingram, but then you'd also get another piece at running back alongside of it that is a lesser value. So unless you're going to someone and saying, hey, you got to give me George Kittle and Najee Harris for Laporta, I mean, it could work. I'm not saying it's out of the realm of possibility. It could work, but it's a matter of like, can you find someone that wants to give that to you? Because I don't think Laporta is going to garner an idea of someone giving you like, I don't think someone's going to give you James Conner and Mark. Actually, maybe someone's going to give you James Conner and Mark Andrews. There's a possibility. You could get more depth there at running back. Those are the kind of looks you're trying to make, because ultimately, if it was me, I'd love to go get an ETN and knock on that door, but there's no way that the ETN manager in a deep league, half PPR, is going to be coughing him up for Laporta. Octavia says, in a second league, tips for Dak Prescott, Tyreek Hill, Wilson, Connor, Walker. Okay, we got a lot of options here. Tyreek and Wilson, done. Okay, we're okay there. Connor Walker, very well. Hopefully you have Charbonnet. McBride, Olave, great. You have Ramondre off your bench. You have Moss. You have Mason. Okay, wow, okay. Octavio, I mean, the way that I see this, you've got so much running back depth that you could take Tyreek Hill and take Pollard and go and trade for a wide receiver legitimately if you want out on that. That's how much depth you've got. Mason, honestly, is also the... Guys, again, if you don't have McCaffrey and you've got Mason, you're knocking on the Christian McCaffrey owner's door. Literally their door. You play with these people. Go to their house and knock on their door and ask for a trade. Additionally, if you have Kenneth Walker and you don't have Sharps, that sucks. But if you have Sharps and you don't have Kenneth Walker, knock on people's door. Yo, I've got your handcuff. Your guy's injured. What do you want to do? You want to take L's this week? That's fine. I'll be happy to start him every week, but you want to try to, initiate a potential trade there, because they're not going to be the starters rest of the season. So in your position here, though, Octavio, great quarterback, great tight end, solid running backs, solid wide receivers, but you've got enough depth to where you could do whatever you want to do. You can literally 3-for-1 trade. That's how much depth you've got on this second league. Tate Olson says, 10-team PPR. AR is, okay, so Anthony Richardson, Barkley, Gibbs, Malik Neighbors, Worthy, Kittle, Dell. Okay, pretty solid. Singletary, AD Mitchell, Pickens is on the bench along with Ridley. Make any moves? I don't think you need to make any moves technically. Barkley and Gibbs don't need to move. AR doesn't need to move. Neither does your tight end. Malik and Worthy are solid, especially with Worthy getting more opportunity without Marquise Hollywood Brown on the field. Dell is solid option. Singletary is kind of that movable piece that in a injury circumstance and or potential circumstance where there's bye weeks, fills in perfectly fine in a full PPR. I don't think there's any moves that are quote unquote necessary. Now, if you're like, hey, I'm going to go trade Anthony Richardson for Jaden Daniels and another running back or another wide receiver, you could do something like that, but it's got to be prime. I'm not trying to give away stud players for, lesser options. Pop 2020 says full PPR, start 3. Montgomery, Ford, Sharby, and Pollard. Montgomery, Ford, Sharby, and Pollard. Out of those 4 options, in a full PPR, I probably end up playing Ford, Sharby, and Pollard. Thank you. We move on to a question from Michael Ortiz, who says, can you name some trade targets for Worthy? Let me go see what your prior team was, Michael Ortiz, just so I can reference okay, so you said Neighbors, London, Amari Cooper, Tank Dell, Worthy. Okay, so that's your context. So the trade targets are, okay, so here's the thing. This is what I keep telling people, and hopefully you guys understand the concept, right? It's just a matter of like, the value of a player is very much so determined on what your league mates value that player at. So if nobody in your league likes Xavier Worthy and you're going to have to sell him for far less than what he is actually valued at, then it's not worth the trade at, at face value. But if you're going to trade away Xavier Worthy, I'm going to try to knock on every door of any wide receiver that did not play well in week 1 and every running back that did not play well in week 1. So what I'm specifically saying is Olave, Drake London, Marvin Harrison's, I'm knocking on doors. Even if I have to give Worthy with another player, because of all that wide receiver depth you went ahead and showed me with that prior question, I'm knocking on those doors because why the heck not? Garrett Wilson, I'll knock on that door as well. But again, it's going to be more difficult to get that kind of a player comparatively. But yeah, I mean, if you can go get those players, try to. Because otherwise, Worthy going forward is like top 30. So like there are very few players at wide receiver that I'm going to want over him. Like he's going to be in really advantageous position going forward. Devontae Smith, I'd love to have. Looking at just some of these names, like there are some really good players out there that did not play well in week 1. Devontae Adams, I don't think they'll give it to you, but you can always try. DJ Moore, I'll try that as well. Yeah. Michael Pittman Jr., I'll try that as well. Brandon Ayuk, I'll try that as well. Hopefully that helps. Thank you. Gears Gaming. Man, speaking of Gears and gaming, Gears of War, waiting for that next game. I'm waiting for it. It's gonna hit, hopefully. Fingers crossed. Continued from that, Olave, Cup, Trey, McBride. Gears Gaming, what is... Okay, so you said... Okay. Gears Gaming. I just figured out that I skipped so many questions thanks to you. Okay, got it. Okay. I need to refresh this because my chat just updated and broke it. Refreshing. So Gears Gaming, I see your question. It says, good or bad, starting Purdy, Mason, and Robinson Jr.? I don't have an issue with that. Why would I have an issue with starting Purdy and Mason? I don't have an issue with it at all. As for your follow-up, it says, continued, I have Olave, Cup, Trey, McBride. No, I don't have an issue. You're good to go there. I mean, I don't know what your alternative options are, but I think those are pretty solid starts, to say the least. Okay, good to go there. So we took care of Papa, and then Tony sends in a question. Tony Kamaj says, 2 running back, or RB2, Monty, JK, Stevenson, Ford, PPR. In a full PPR scoring format, it's probably Stevenson. As for your follow-up, JK for Jaden Reed, you would only ever trade for Jaden Reed if we knew that Jordan Love is going to... Okay, so the fact that Jordan Love didn't go to the injured reserve leads me to believe that it's probably 2 to 3 weeks. If it's 2 to 3 weeks and he's going to stay healthy for the remainder of the season, I'm okay with the trade of that capacity because Jaden Reed, yes, once Jordan Love returns, should be the wide receiver one technically based on targets, usage, and it's a great offense. So I don't mind it per se, assuming, yeah, you do have relatively good depth, but I'd rather trade Ford if it was me. All right, moving on. Inderjit says, do you see Chubb playing this year? I do see him playing this year, but he's not going to be, I think he'll be 75% of normal Nick Chubb, which, again, normal Nick Chubb is like 15 points per week. So 75% of it could still be 10 points per week. That's, he could still be like an RB3 on a weekly basis in the rankings. Like, oh, he's ranked number 27 this week, Nick Chubb, while Jerome Ford is ranked number 33. Like they're both going to be in that convo. Chef Ran says, squad is JD5, very well. Goff, Brees, Achane, Jalen Wright, Justice Hill, Tank Bigsby, McBride, Parkinson, Puka, I almost called him Luka, Puka Doncic, London, DJ Worthy, McLaurin, Demarcus Robinson. Any idea in terms of upgrading wide receiver? Okay, so here's the thing. If you want to upgrade wide receiver, you probably have to move Puka because, quite frankly, you're not going to be able to get much value out of London as it currently stands based on his week 1 performance. DJ Moore is kind of in the same boat. He didn't play well in comparison to the normal DJ Moore standard. Worthy is your highest valued kind of potential prospect because of the news to, of course, Marquise Brown, that being a potential multi-month injury where he's going to sit on the injured reserve. So in this scenario, Worthy's kind of the guy that you would try to move if you're going to try to upgrade a wide receiver. And I mentioned a lot of wide receivers earlier in terms of like Ayuk's of the world, Pittman's of the world that you can go after in terms of potentially trading that for them. But otherwise, you don't want to touch running back. You don't want to move your quarterback. You want to keep your stud tight end. And yeah, that would kind of be the play. Luis Castillo says, in a 10-team full PPR, I have A.J. Brown. Can I trade Zach Moss to a desperate running back team for their Devontae Smith? Listen, you're asking me. I have no clue. If you can, do it. Oh my God, you know how much of a blessing that would be to get Devontae Smith for very little capital? That would be unbelievable. Understand that, again, Devontae Smith was like a fringe 4th/5th round pick in a 12-team league. In a 10th team league, he's probably a 5th/6th. So therefore, if you're able to trade a 5th or 6th round player for Zach Moss, who probably went in the 10th, you're making a huge upgrade of potential, especially in a full PPR, just purely based off of draft, status, not even just per game potential, which significantly is in the favor of Devontae Smith. So if you can, sure, let's do it for sure. Thank you. Let's see here. C. Banjer, haven't seen you in a while. Hope you're doing well. It says PPR Stafford/Ayuk or Rodgers London. I'll take Stafford Ayuk rest of the season. I'm not really too interested in playing Rodgers, guys. I have no interest in that at all. Does not seem like a fun experience for the remainder of the season. For his sake, for the sake of all of the potential options in that offense, I hope they play well. But ultimately, I don't think that's something that I'd like to have a part of my team. Jason Kimber sends in a question. Jason, hope you're doing well. Says, I have Bijan Robinson and Cousins and London. Oof. Should I start that? Okay, should I start them all stacked? No, I don't think I'm starting Cousins with them. I have no issue starting Bijan and London as a duo. I have no interest in starting Kirk Cousins alongside of them. Now, I don't know what your potential alternative options are, Jason. But let me just go to my quarterback rankings really quick on Patreon, and So, for example, if I'm going to just name names, Geno, Deshaun Watson, Trevor Lawrence, Justin Herbert, any of those available? Because I'm assuming Stafford's probably gone already. I'm assuming Baker's gone. They probably went off with waivers. If those are available, maybe, probably that's the play, because I don't like the alternative of playing Kirk as of right now. Okay, let's see here. The next okay, so then your follow-up question is, worried about Cousins on Monday Night Football? Also, Dobbins or Jonathan Taylor? Yeah, I'd rather start Jonathan Taylor, especially against Green Bay. Thank you. Chris sends in a question, says, should I start McLaurin, Brian Thomas Jr., Palmer, or Demarcus Robinson? I'd rather play McLaurin out of the bunch. The order in which I have it currently, in terms of my rankings, McLaurin number 1, Brian Thomas number 2, Demarcus Robinson 3, Joshua Palmer 4. And Devontae Smith being your wide receiver 1, you're good to go. Also, who should I flex between J.K. Dobbins and the remaining guys? J.K. Dobbins will get the flex. Thank you. Ironic Fate says, Andrew, have you played Warhammer? It's like Gears. I know people who have played it. My friends have specifically told me to play it. It's not like Gears. I know Gears, and I'm talking about two-piecing. I'm talking about wall banging. I'm talking about like the actual, like, listen, let me tell you something, right? As a young lad, okay, Xbox 360 initial release, when I'm talking about Gears of War, I'm talking about Gears of War 1, Gears of War 2, great, solid. Gears 3, I don't know. After a while, when you start adding flamethrowers to the game and whatever that is, just give me canals, give me the torque bow, give me the long shot, give me the boom shot on gridlock. Like, let's play the OG stuff. Hopefully we're going back to those days. Outside of that, like using a hammer burst, like what are we doing? That should never be a part of the game. That's a completely different thing. But yes, I've heard about Warhammer. People have definitely pointed me in that direction. Thank you, Ironic Fate. I don't know if I'll play. Listen, I don't have no time to play games at this point. The only games I'm playing is life, and I'm losing right now. My brain is melting as we speak. Let's see here. We had a question that came in from Stiani Boy, who says 8-man PPR. Tight end is a 1.5. Okay, so you get a tight end premium. Please pick one. Brock Bowers. Okay, yeah. Of the available, I think it's pretty simple. I'm playing Brock Bowers over Ladd. I'm playing him over George. I'm playing him over Brian, Thomas, Pickens. Yeah, all these guys. I'll take Brock Bowers in a premium. Yep. Kevin Tatum sends in a question. Says, my team is going through the ringer right now for the last 2 weeks. I have Christian McCaffrey, Kyron Williams, Josh Allen, Marvin Harrison, Waddle, Kincaid, Devontae Smith. You have any advice? If you don't have Jordan Mason, you're probably trading Christian McCaffrey to the Mason manager. If not, my only other advice would be to pray to the fantasy gods every Sunday morning. That would be cool, because if you do it, maybe they'll bless you. I don't know. I mean, really, at this point, here's legitimate, like, no joke, like, all jokes aside, Kevin. Here's the legitimate answer. you're taking Josh Allen and you're trading him. And you're trying to go get running back depth along with a downgraded quarterback. So if you have to take Josh Allen and go trade him and get Kyler Murray and a running back, I think it's probably your best bet. I know that Josh Allen is a huge potential option for your team, but in this circumstance, the fact that you mentioned your team and didn't mention another running back besides Christian McCaffrey leads me to be extremely afraid. By the end of this week, going into the middle of next week, by next Wednesday, if we don't have Christian McCaffrey on the IR, then it's a positive sign, and that means that he could return sooner rather than later. Then you don't have to make a move. But by Wednesday of next week, if he does go to the IR, I think you then have to start moving and getting Josh Allen off your team to go get a quarterback and a running back tandem. Awesome person sends in a question, says full PPR, most value waivers, question mark. Lazard, Romeo Dobbs, own Cup, Pickens, Higgins, McLaughlin, Gus, Madison, own Zamir White, Saquon, Montgomery, or potential trades. Of the potential options that you have on your waiver wires, Jaleel McLaughlin is the most valuable, and it's not even close. The fact that he had 10 rushing attempts and 5 receptions, 15 total touches in last week's game is very alarming. Like that is a lot of opportunity. So in this scenario, yes, I would think that Jaleel McLaughlin is the most valuable, especially with Estime, their third string running back, going to the injured reserve. It is just Javonte and it is just McLaughlin. And in negative game scripts, throwing for majority of games, there is going to be some opportunity there in which, of course, McLaughlin is going to be standalone value and should be picked up absolutely. Thank you for the question. Okay, we have Luke who sends in a question. Says, trade away Barkley and Godwin for Christian McCaffrey and Shaheed. Barkley, Godwin for Christian McCaffrey. No. Hold on, wait. What do you have on your team? 10-team, half PPR, 3 wide receiver league. I have Mahomes, Cup, JJ, Pickens, Barkley, Ford, Kincaid. I don't see Mason on this team. Without Mason on your team, no thank you. As of currently stands, I have Barkley ranked higher than Christian McCaffrey rest of season value. So Barkley actually is worth more than Christian McCaffrey in my mind. Additionally, Godwin clears Shaheed 10x. So yeah, we're not moving. Keep what you have, Luke. You're good to go. Preston says, I'm in a 16-man PPR league. That is ridiculous. Okay, so here we go. Let's see how thin this team is. My flex is looking rough, I would assume. I drafted T. Higgins. Yep, that sucks. I apologize. That is... I'll take the L on that. Obviously, didn't expect to see him getting injured. I was offered Kyron Williams, Corum, and DK, but I have to give up Brees. Ooh, okay. In a full PPR, considering the 16-team format, unless bench spots are like few and far between, like let's say you're in a 7-start league, so 1 quarterback, 2 wide receivers, 2 running backs, a tight end, and a flex. 7-start league. 16-team league, your bench consists of 4 or 5 players max. There's going to be nobody on the there's going to be nobody on the waivers that if in fact an injury takes place, you're going to be able to hit the waivers and find value. So because of the lack of depth available there, this is not a bad offer. In your scenario, I don't know how quote unquote rough it is in the absence of T. Higgins, but being able to get DK could really do you some service in the upcoming weeks, and then you could even end up trading Higgins and or DK eventually. But I don't mind it. Let's see here. Gizmono Games says, PPR, Freiermuth, Ertz, Gesicki, Moreau, or Schoonmaker. Of the available group that you have mentioned there, Freiermuth would be 1, Gesicki would be 2, and then everything else is a complete toss-up. So Freiermuth is probably the go-to as of right now. Lil Fat Bear sends in a question, says, would you trade James Conner, Waddle, and Goddard for Kelsey, Montgomery, DJ Moore? Okay, James Conner, Waddle, and Goddard for Kelsey, Montgomery. Okay, so as it currently stands, Kelsey clears Goddard pretty greatly. You're trading away Waddle. You're getting DJ Moore. Yes, I'll take the Kelsey side. 100%, no questions asked. That is a huge take if you're able to get it. Yeah, please get the Kelsey side. If in fact that is a offer that has been sent to you, take the Kelsey side and run. Run now. All right. I think I've caught up. Almost. Never mind. I didn't catch up. Almost. Let's see here. Hodge. WBDJDKDKDK sends in a question. Says in a full PPR, pick 3. Ayuk, Jordan Mason, Tank, Zach Charbonnet. Okay, Jordan Mason has to play. Additionally, outside of that, the Ayuk risk is implied. I will still play Ayuk, and I will probably, on top of that, play Sharps. If you are worried about Ayuk, I have no issue with him benching him. Again, I'm going to have to go watch a couple interviews and press conferences and see what exactly they're going to utilize Ayuk at this week. If they're going to continue to limit him, it's probably in your best position to play Mason, Tank, and Zach Sharps. Otherwise, if they're going to let loose of Ayuk and let him not play 60% of the snaps, rather 90, then Ayuk and Mason and Sharps are the play. Let's see here. Galactic123 sends in a question. Thank you, Galactic. Says I got offered Christian McCaffrey for Kamara in a full PPR. Take it. Do you have Mason? If you have Mason, you take that deal. If you don't, I'm gonna throw up. And because imagine Christian McCaffrey goes to the IR and you're out of a running back for the next 4 weeks plus. Like that would kill me. You gotta have Mason. If you don't have Mason, having Christian McCaffrey is all risk implied potential. There's just so much potential for risk and failure. It's just not worth it at that point, at least in my perspective. Toast sends in a question. Says panic sell Waddle? I don't think so. I'm not panic selling anybody yet. Again, I want to wait and see what this information comes out regarding Tua, his health, and how they're going to proceed going forward. Because the team technically, they owe him money. If they want to say, hey, Tua, we're not going to let you play because we don't want to risk it, the team's going to have to shell out the rest of his guarantee. And he just signed a brand new contract. So really, it's just up to Tua. Does he want to continue to compete, or does he want to, prioritize his health? And that is the decision that he will make with his family, and we'll figure that out when it comes down the line. Until then, unless you're going to get comparable value for Waddle and his upside potential, it's going to be hard to sell him because everyone's going to assume that Tua is going to be out. So if you're going to sell Waddle right now, you're going to be selling him at a far lesser potential value, pennies on the dollar, than what you would typically get for him in exchange, which again is very risky. But there's always a potential move that could be made there. If you're taking Waddle, let's say DK Metcalf this week doesn't have a great week again, you can go and move for him. Let's say Michael Pittman doesn't have a great week again, you move him for him. And then those are kind of like wide receiver 2 potential guys that are similar in value. Sure, they're a little bit of a downgrade if Tua is healthy, but still, it doesn't kill you. John Dot. Is it Dotery or Dottery? I'm an idiot. Either way. John sends in a question. Thank you, John. The following question from John is a 10-team full PPR. Starting running backs are Barkley, Mason, Munty. Okay, very good. Bench running backs are Dowdle, Chandler, and Pirine, along with Emmanuel Wilson, Bigsby, Chuba Hubbard. Brother, how do you have so many bench effing RBs? Do I get Gainwell off of waiver wire and for who? Yeah, drop Emmanuel Wilson. Go pick up Gainwell because the other running back, Marshawn Lloyd for the Green Bay Packers, is back. So Emmanuel Wilson doesn't have as much value. So Gainwell would be the swap for him. Thank you. God's Gang says, full PPR flex, ETN worthy or neighbors, leaning towards ETN. In a full PPR, you kind of have to. Yeah, it's ETN. I don't think I would, I wouldn't find myself in any other scenario playing any other player. I think 100% of the time I'd play ETN there. Okay, The Loop sends in a question. Says, should I trade J.K. Dobbins and Drake London for A.J. Brown and Christian Watson? What do we have here? J.K. Dobbins and Drake London for A.J. Brown and Christian Watson. So Christian Watson, in my mind, very low value. Sure, he could be the wide receiver 2 of that team, but ultimately, based on his usage against the Philadelphia Eagles, it's relatively apparent that he is not a clear favorite in the offense and still won't be. So you're basically trading Dobbins and London for A.J. Brown because those are going to be the starting options, because Christian Watson probably won't play unless you're playing in a super deep 3 wide receiver 2 flex league. So with that, God, I got something in my eye. How did I get something in my eye? I'm just sitting at a desk. Okay. Anyway, should I transfer Dobbins and London for Nico Collins and Swift? Okay, so looking at the potential trade offers that you have here, I think I'd rather keep J.K. Dobbins and Drake London as it currently stands, unless you are stacked at running back depth. Additionally, your follow-up trade for getting Swift and Nico Collins, I probably still keep Dobbins and London in this scenario. So I tell you to keep what you have. Levi sends in a question, says 12-team half PPR, Allen, Achane, Najee, Jordan Mason, Rashee Rice, JJ, Puka, Kincaid. Trade Achane and Rice for Breece Hall and Pittman or Olave. Trading Breece, okay, I don't have an issue with that. If you trade Achane and Rice for Breece Hall and Olave, I could live with that in a half PPR. Mo Money sends in a question, says Adams, good target for trading Mason? Yeah, I mean, If you can get Devontae Adams, who is, again, going to be a top 15 wide receiver by the end of the season, why wouldn't you do that for Mason? Assuming you don't have Christian McCaffrey, you're trading Mason away. It's no harm to you. You have basically picked up a random player, not random, obviously it's intentional. You've picked up a player and they are far more valuable than where they were intended to potentially be off of initial pickup. And I think that presents a lot of value to you. And if you can get a player of the caliber of, I mean, goodness gracious, Devontae Adams, let's do it. Bums Playing sends in a question, says, trade A.J. Brown for Marvin Harrison Jr. and David Montgomery in a full PPR? Depends on how low of an RB depth you have. Like if you're really struggling at RB because you lost Christian McCaffrey, your other running back that you were supposed to rely upon is DeAndre Swift, and then another one, and your next one after that is Javonte Williams, and the next one after that is some other, complete disaster of a play. Like if you've got completely just a really shitty hand dealt to you in terms of your draft so far, you could take the trade. Ultimately, in a full PPR, A.J. Brown is a first-round pick for a reason. The guy is going to be top 5 wide receiver minimum, assuming he stays healthy, of course. But yeah, if you got a really tough situation at running back, I don't mind it because, again, you're getting a solid running back and a pretty solid wide receiver that is being undervalued at the moment. Clax? I guess I could be Clax. Let's call you Perp Cal X says, forced to start Bigsby in a 14-team half PPR. Am I screwed? No. Let's hope he steals a touchdown in your case. But considering how many shares of ETN I have, that's as far as I'll go with that. I won't send in a call to the fantasy gods to help you any more than that. Thank you. All right. So I think that covers that. Beautiful. Let's go ahead and make sure that we're good to go in terms of catching up on all of those. Thank you, Perp Cal X again. Bum, thank you again. Mo Money, Levi, Loop. Appreciate y'all. Okay. I think I've caught up almost. Typically, like I mentioned, I want to get these streams to be an hour to an hour and a half max because, again, I'll be back tomorrow at 1 to 3 p.m. How long have we been going for? An hour and 50? Holy crap. That is not how I thought that was going to go. Okay, so, again, a couple reminders. This video just came out. This video. Am I pointing in the right direction? I got to check. Yes, I am. Boom. This video came out earlier today. It includes some hidden gems for this upcoming week. Also, another hidden gem that I like is Mike Gesicki. Again, the reason why I believe this to be the case, this is a guy that you don't have to start, but you could potentially have on your bench going forward that maybe he pops off this week, then you could pick him up and have him before the pop-off happens. The only reason I even throw it out there as a potential option is because Tanner Hudson, who is the other tight end in this offense, who will typically get a pretty good volume of overall snaps. Tanner Hudson was also the guy that after Gesicki scored a touchdown, then it was called back because he dropped it. Tanner Hudson was the guy who caught the pass, then fumbled, and then killed the entire drive. Could have very easily led to the Bengals winning. Nonetheless, in terms of overall snap counts, when we're talking about the tight end position for this offense, again, there's like Drew Sample is going to play, but he's a blocking tight end. Gesicki could have all of the receiving potential upside within the game. It's out there. I'm not saying start him. Again, he's just a sneaky play. That's it. Here comes another question. That is going to be taken care of in a second. Boom, boom. Okay. The only other things I wanted to mention again. So I will be back tomorrow from 1 to 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. I'll also be back on Sunday morning from 7 to 10 a.m. in the morning PST. Answering questions. I'll have up-to-date rankings around me. If you guys cannot make it to those streams or potentially just want my rankings for the remainder of the season, right here, Underdog Fantasy is the way to do it. Again, the link is in the description. If you guys are eligible based on your current location, again, that is based on the map that you guys can see here. If you're eligible to potentially play in this scenario, you would technically be eligible to sign up using code Andrew, make a first-time deposit minimum of $10, and I'll send you my rankings by position: quarterback, running back, tight end, wide receiver, kicker, defense, flex, half PPR, full PPR, every single Sunday morning for the remainder of the season. I did this all of last year. I'm doing it again once again this year. So that's all that is required. If you're not eligible or you've done it in the past last season, or you've signed up with your code and it's somebody else's code in the past, whatever, Patreon's always available. If you guys are interested, there's a link down there. You can travel there, see all the benefits that you would get in exchange for your pledge via Patreon. You can do it for a month. You can do it for no time. It's just up to you. The 2024 Fantasy Champ has everything in it. It's just basically one tier or nothing. And that is what's potentially available there. Again, the biggest benefits there are either rankings that come out on Thursdays and Sundays and asking me unlimited questions. Now, the additional benefits that go even further beyond that some people take advantage of are like the private Discord server. On Tuesday of earlier this week, we had like an hour-long conversation there with a bunch of members of the private Discord. Just asking questions on waivers, trades, etc., putting together pick'em slips, all that kind of jazz. So if you guys are interested, good to go. Let's answer Loop's question here. Continue to appreciate. I'm not stacked at running back. I have Barkley and Jacobs at running back and no bench. No faith in London, and saw an opportunity to get rid of him with Brown owner panicking over injury. Got it. So with this context, Loop. Look, the issue is you're giving away Dobbins, and I don't want to give away that. Like, look, if it was London for AJ Brown, great. But the fact you also have to give away Dobbins, it just hurts because you may not have faith in London, but I do. And it's enough to where, like, the give up of Dobbins and London in exchange for what you get, I don't love it. And considering you're also telling me that you're not stacked at running back, also bothers me because, yeah, if you were to give away Dobbins, which can be a solid RB3 rest of the season, assuming he stays healthy, it's a great spot. Kevin says, I just watched the Hidden Gems video. Happy to see J.K. Dobbins there. Would you start him over DJ Moore and Stephon Diggs in a PPR? Okay, hear me out. Diggs is a different, complete animal. DJ Moore, when I look at it, if in fact Keenan Allen and Rome Odunze don't play, DJ Moore has to be the starter. If in fact we're in a scenario in which Keenan Allen and Rome Odunze do play, I'm not playing DJ Moore this week. Then I would just pivot to either Stephon Diggs or Dobbins. And quite honestly, I might play him over Diggs. I honestly. That Carolina Panthers matchup is just too easy. It really is. It is just, yeah, it is so easy. Anthony says, I'm scared of keeping Rachaad White end of season, but I know they have a great playoff schedule. I wouldn't really worry about playoff schedule this early because, okay, so let's look at their upcoming schedule in terms of the playoffs. Buccaneers schedule. So when we look in, okay, so their playoff schedule, weeks 15, 16, and 17. Los Angeles Chargers, Dallas Cowboys, Carolina Panthers. So technically, week 17, Championship Sunday, against the Carolina Panthers, yes, that's pretty sweet. Never mind. I redact my statement, Anthony. You're not wrong. Sheesh, that is actually a really nice one. Okay, let's see here. Any concerns about AJ Brown? Again, here's the thing, guys. Concerns are very few because here's the reality of the situation. Let's say he's actually hurt. Let's say he doesn't play Monday. Just like the situation we had with Christian McCaffrey last Monday, you got to be prepared with alternative options. So what does that mean? It's either you are in a situation where you're prepared, you've picked up Jahan Dotson and you're waiting for Monday, or you're going to play an alternative option accordingly. So really, I have no time to worry. I just have time to prepare for disaster and be able to assume that if a disaster is potentially going to occur, I am prepared to at least help my team win some way or the other, regardless of whether or not that disaster does take place. Robert sends in a question, says, half PPR, I got offered my Laporta for his Pollard and Dell. Okay, Robert, I need to go back up and I need to see the context of the rest of this team again. Just give me a second to go back up real quick. Okay, so looking at your team before, you said that you lost Kenneth Walker because of an injury and you had Eckler as your flex, but somebody's trying to now offer you Dell and Pollard for Laporta. Now, my follow-up question to this context, Robert, is what is your tight end? Because your tight end is absolutely going to be the biggest difference as to whether or not I like this deal. Because if your backup tight end is someone that is, let's say you picked up Isaiah Likely, I'm more inclined to potentially make a move of this caliber because you have an option that is backup and you're not going to just be hung out to dry going forward. Chris Godwin, Amari Cooper, Kyron Williams in my flex. I'm playing Kyron Williams there. Buddha bless. For sure. What does it say? Godwin over Cooper this week? Yeah, I'll take that. I have no issue with that at all. For sure. Constantino says, my boy, can you rank these? Goff, Baker, Stafford, and Fields? Yeah. It's literally in that exact order. Goff, Baker, Stafford and Fields. Literally that order. I mean, that's how I had it in my Thursday video. That's how I'll continue, roll it for this week. Michael Ortiz says, I have Ayuk. Should I trade Caleb for Purdy? Yes. I'll take Purdy rest season. I had him valued higher in the preseason. I continue to have him higher ranked. Likely or Kittle this week? I'll probably just play Kittle there. Especially if, it depends, right? By Sunday morning, I'll have an established understanding as to what Ayuk is going to look like. And with that, it will kind of imply the potential of Kittle. Godwin for the win says, PPR flex, Pittman, Ford, or Dobbins? Typically, in those kind of scenarios, I probably just lean towards playing Ford. I could justify playing all three of them, but Ford is probably the guy that I lean towards. Bears or Jets defense? Give me the Jets defense this week and for the next 2 weeks after that. Because again, I think I mentioned this to a couple people yesterday. Maybe it wasn't on live stream. Maybe it was on Discord via the Patreon. But either way, the upcoming schedule: Tennessee, New England, Denver, Minnesota. So again, the next 4 teams that the New York Jets defense plays against, their quarterbacks are Will Levis, Jacoby Brissett, Bo Nix, and Sam Darnold. Play the Jets going forward. You're in a good spot there. Okay. I think that's where I'm going to call it, guys. I do appreciate y'all coming through. Again, I'll be back tomorrow from 1 to 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time here on the channel. Again, like I said, it's a Friday night. I'm sure many of you got people to see, places to be. I do as well. Again, it's still early over here, still only 9 p.m. I do appreciate y'all coming through, supporting the channel. For those of you who send super chats, thank you again. That continues to keep these very bright lights on as they continue to, force me to sweat. But thank you again for all the support. If you guys want additional content right here, I do go over a potential couple pick'em slips via Underdog Fantasy throughout that video. So if you guys are interested to potentially tail this weekend, check that out. Outside of that, I'm going to call it. I'm going to cue the double helix, the one and only. Much love, everybody. I'll be back tomorrow, Sunday, and then we'll reset. Okay, here we go. Look, I'm about to start the music, and here come Ross Wong. Ross, okay, here we go, Ross. You caught me at a good time, Ross. Okay, and here comes Loop. Guys, I'm like 2 feet out the door. My torso's still in the picture. Okay, so let's do this really quickly. There's a couple questions in the live chat that I also want to answer. Himmy says, what's up, Andrew? Start 2 wide receivers and a flex. London, Neighbors, Charbonnet, full PPR. Okay, so start 2. Okay, so you mentioned 3 players and 3 spots. So Himmy, fix the question before I leave. Moving on. Donald, okay, we took care of that. Mario says Jerome Ford or Calvin Ridley. I'll take Jerome Ford there. Moving on to Dark Sage 527, who says pick 2, Zeke, Pollard, Harb. Harb? Who the heck is Harb? Is it Sharb? Pollard and Charbonnet, if that's what you meant. Ross Wong says, hey, Andrew, pick 2 in a flex full PPR. Keenan, Devontae, Pollard, Chase Brown, Zamir, A.D. Mitchell. Okay, of the available options, under the assumption that Keenan Allen is healthy and ready to play this week, he would be played alongside of Devontae Smith. And your flex would be Pollard. So Keenan, Devontae, Pollard. If, in fact, Keenan Allen is to miss this week, in the absence, you would then just play Chase Brown as your full pick 2 for the flex. No, yeah. Keenan Allen and Devontae Smith are the plays. If Keenan Allen is out, you play Pollard and Devontae Smith. Thank you. Moving on to your next question. Start Baker or Kirk? I'd much rather play Baker Mayfield. Without a doubt in my mind. Again, if you have any questions on the matter, go check out my quarterback rankings video that I posted earlier this week. It has Mark Andrews as a thumbnail because I put quarterbacks and tight ends in the same video. Fantasy Gods have my back, drafted Charbonnet since I lost Puka to the IR. Glad to hear it, Ross. Thank you again for the super chat. Loop says, solid insight tonight. Thanks. I'll roll with London then. Okay. Sounds good. Thank you. Okay. I was waiting to see if, who was I looking for again earlier? Himmy. Where the heck is Himmy? Himmy says, meant 2 wide receiver and flex. So, okay. So 2 of each. No, 1 of each. Thank you. Okay. Now I get it. London, Neighbors, Charbonnet. If it's my team in a full PPR, I would legitimately play London and Neighbors this week. And I would look to, if you are a Kenneth Walker manager, you don't get to take advantage technically of the play of Charbonnet. But otherwise, if you have Charbonnet and you don't have the potential of Mr. Kenneth Walker on your team, maybe you look to trade him because you play the other 2 anyway. What does it say? Gears of War Ultimate Edition. Get on it. Yeah, listen. I'm waiting. I am waiting. Jordan Mason or Amari Cooper for Amon-Ra? Yeah, let's do it. Give me Amon-Ra the rest of the season. Hi, Andrew. Pick 3, Evans, Neighbors, Rice, Wilson. Evans, Neighbors, Rice, Wilson. Cool. So of those available options, I'm playing Evans, I'm playing Rice, and I'm playing Wilson. Thank you. Dell for Montgomery, PPR. Sure, if you have the depth, I don't have an issue with that. Andre sends in a question. Andre Yoshimitsu says, would you trade Mason for Christian McCaffrey? Yes. It's counterintuitive, but yes. So you're telling me, hey, I have Mason, and somebody that has Christian McCaffrey is willing to give me Christian McCaffrey. Yes, you would take Christian McCaffrey in a heartbeat. And it's not even, listen, you have to understand, Andre Yoshimitsu, if you're in a position in which you have McCaffrey, it would be counterintuitive not to have Mason. But if they're dumb enough to give you McCaffrey for Mason, you take it. And even if it loses you the league, you do it because you need to do it off of pure principle itself. Dennis Rincon sends in a question. I thought I was going to leave. I'm answering questions for the next 30 minutes, I guess. Full PPR. Wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2 in a flex. Devontae Adams, Deebo Samuel, Devontae Smith, Alan Lazard, Tyler Lockett, Joshua Palmer, and DeMarcus Robinson. Very well, Dennis. So, of your available options, in a full PPR scoring format, Devontae Adams, Deebo Samuel, Devontae Smith. I mean, it's really no questions asked. Those are your 3 studs. You play your 3 studs. They are the best options. No problem at all. Tony says if you have wide receiver depth, you need an RB. Okay, so he's answering somebody else's question. What is this? Chase says, greetings. Which RB do I sit this weekend out of the 4? Henry, Jacobs, Mason, or Montgomery? Of the 4, I'm sitting Jacobs. I'm playing everybody else. If you are going to not sit Jacobs out of denial, then you sit Montgomery. I don't know what other word I would have thrown out there. Hey, Andrew, PPR, Kyler Murray or Jaden Daniels? Charlene, I have Jaden Daniels ranked higher. Again, did you guys not see the video? Hold up. I'm going to go to YouTube. Hold up. Everybody stay calm. Let's figure this out really quickly. Again, so let's do this really quickly. Let's travel on over to the screen capture world. The ball's coming. Don't be afraid. Okay, so when we're here at the channel, right? You see this video? Tight end and quarterback rankings. What part of this do we forget, guys? Let's scroll this really quickly. Bang. All right, so Baker Mayfield, Jaden Daniels, we're good, right? Look at this, 2 Andrews on one screen. Not the same shirt, though. I got lucky this time. But we get it, right? All right, cool. Thank you. Appreciate it. All righty. Couple more questions and I'm out. Couple more. Did we catch up? We took care of that one. Boom, 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 boom. Hit the solo? I'm thinking about it. Mason for Neighbors. If you don't have Christian McCaffrey, that's a pretty decent pivot in that direction. All right, guys. I appreciate y'all. I'll be back tomorrow, 1 to 3 p.m. See ya. Peace.